Do you think men can give birth?
I think that
yes or no question.
I think that a person who is assigned male at birth, I don't think they
assigned
can give birth.
male at birth, so people are not male at birth.
I think that a person.
See, your evidence that college is a scam, my friend.
So what do you say in some cases women with IUDs are murderers?
Of course not.
Cells.
No,
It's not about.
say one more time. By 20 woke college kids.
So I wanted to skip past that because I don't like the previews. We'll just get to this.
Founder of Turning Point USA, and I am surrounded by 20 woke college kids.
Those are woke college kids. Is that another one of those instances of Jubilee having to change the title after the fact? Just like with the Jordan Peterson one, where it had to be like one Christian surrounded by 20 atheists. They just changed it to Jordan Peterson surrounded by 20 atheists. Sorry, dealing with water here for a second. Don't ask. Yeah, like he calls them woke. Again, Charlie Kirk is explicitly a sophist. Well, he probably doesn't call himself that, but he is very much a sophist. He is very much a debate bro. That's kind of his shtick. And again, he is, for the most part, a Christian nationalist. Fairly strongly associated with white nationalism. I know he would say he's not racist, but he's racist. We will see that almost certainly. I haven't watched this one, but we're going to see it. Charlie Kirk can't... Charlie Kirk has the same talking points that he had 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's the same kind of shit. It just kind of gets more solidified and more dogmatic the further along he goes. It doesn't matter how many times this is disproven. And this is actually the frustrating part, why it feels kind of like the MAGA-style conservatives feel somewhat cult-like, and more importantly, they are extremely anti-intellectual, and just pseudo-intellectual. Because one of the big things with being an intellectual or intellectualism is part of intelligence is growth. It's kind of like the nature of science, is that scientific methods, scientific ideas, scientific theories, they all advance. The idea that Darwin undergirds and is central to what like evolutionary biologists are doing today is kind of stupid, because Darwin starts it, but we much like evolution, the science and the idea of it has evolved and changed. It incorporates some of the observations of Darwin, but has infinitely better explanations of it than just bog standard evolution as a process of change caused by external environmental pressure. That's it, but like they know so much more about how that works, different things that can cause different aspects, and why certain evolutions might happen in certain environments, not other environments, and just even more so than just the environmental stuff expanded. And same with like liberal ideologies and kind of genuine like academic ideologies, and sometimes it can be very trend orientated within university, and I can talk and criticize that to lots of degrees, especially in like the literature departments, whatever. It's not so much that this is a better way of studying or not. It's just oftentimes it's more unique and interesting to do it this way, because we've done analysis from one perspective for a really long time. We do one from a new one, so on and so forth. We mix and match. And again, there are still advances even in literary theory to kind of understanding how language works and story, all that kind of shit, stories, narratology, whatever you want to look at it. But the interesting thing is Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, these kind of very polemic, online, dedicated kind of intellectuals. And I honestly, the next video I'm going to do is I'm probably going to look at a Boghossian one, because Peter Boghossian has also kind of fallen down this rabbit hole of anti-woke madness. But what happens when you start going further and further to the right, and perhaps this is because the right tends to value tradition to such a degree and deify tradition, the past, and glorify this abstract point in time that doesn't exist, where everything actually did work before liberals and leftists ruined everything. Because of that, their ideas don't really change. The things that Charlie Kirk was saying 10, 15 years ago, same true here today. Now, that might be okay if you're talking about certain historical things, and even leftists can kind of have that because certain things haven't changed. Like, okay, we still live in a heavily capitalist environment. Nothing's changed on that one. So, yeah, when the leftist is talking about, taxing the rich and greater economic and wealth disparity, those things, yeah, certain trends aren't really done. But the statistics are interesting because in a meta-narrative way, I don't necessarily mind when you're talking in large, unchanging kind of aspects. Though, again, the fact that Charlie Kirk's talking points are the same talking points that were there 20 years ago and 30 years ago before he even started his bullshit. And he just inherits these little nuggets of wisdom, these little tools that are rusted over and shitty, and he just goes back out there with a new fresh coat of paint on them and still uses the same goddamn tools that his daddy did and his daddy's daddy kind of did. That idea. Again, leftist perspectives have actually changed, even with regard to some of the larger meta-narratives. Like, some of the core hasn't changed because, again, the core problems they're talking about haven't changed. But they'll cite different statistics. They'll understand that when they talk about wealth disparity, they're not going to use the statistic from 10, 20, 30 years ago of wealth disparity as like a statement today, because that doesn't compute. It's different today. In fact, it's actually worse, which is why they would use the new statistic, because it actually works to their point. Charlie Kirk's kind of bullshit never changes. And we're probably going to see that today. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you've ever watched Charlie Kirk crap, any of it, think about what he says here, then go back and go, okay, yeah, he says this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Nothing changes. None of the statistics, none of that. And the big thing is that things have changed. But Charlie Kirk and his general bigotry never changes. The second thing I want to talk about before we talk about is something that I noticed. I kind of noticed it in the Jordan Peterson one. I definitely noticed it in the Candace Owens video on Jubilee. And now I'm seeing it even more in the Charlie Kirk one. Is this. It must be botted to hell and back again. All of Jubilee's comment sections by right-wing, again, bot farms and shit like that. Probably maybe even paid for by Charlie Kirk or various other institutions who may be aligned with Charlie Kirk that support him financially in one way or another, or maybe don't, but just are aligned with him, because the vast majority of Candace Owens' comments, or the comments on Candace Owens' video, I should say, all talk about how the second a reasonable discussion starts happening, the red flags come out, talking about how, apparently, how rightness and correctness is determined by how loud people are yelling and how rude they can be. It was basically just accusing it of like, oh, this is terrible because everyone's so rude, everyone's so awful, everyone is so crazy. And then the few, like, you point out one or two people, they like, oh, I love this person because they actually had like a genuine productive conversation instead of just yelling and screaming, blah, 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 all that shit. Now, I want you to think about that for the Candace Owens video. Nobody really was shouting or screaming. There was a couple of times when people were talking over her and she was talking over them, and she was very kind of upset by that and so horrified that, these peasants would ever talk to the grand princess herself in such a manner. But for the most part, we could easily understand from what we were seeing in the Peterson one and elsewhere, and the Candace Owens one, the vast majority of people all the time were, I'm sorry, it was kind of kid's glove. like, it's a debate, so they are challenging her, but it's a kids glove thing. Like, I saw those comments in the bottom of the of Candace Owens' thing, because I was just looking at the video before watching it, just kind of scrolled down, checking, make sure everything's set up. And I thought, like, oh, well, man, it's possible that some people are going to lose their cool, and there's going to be some shouting and some unnecessary name calling. There's going to be this and that. Okay, maybe this one kind of turns into a bit of a shit show. It happens. The thing is that I was watching that, and that's why I kept making those kid gloves comments, partly is because, again, she is being treated with kid gloves. But also, I kind of was just, I was waiting for, like, where does this happen? Because so far, every single person here has been relatively respectful for disagreeing and in disagreement, has allowed her to talk. And when they don't allow her to talk, it's because she is literally rambling on this long narrative thing, and she's not really giving good, hard statements of, like statements, premises, like various aspects to detail out the hypothesis, not necessarily citations, but like statements of meaning and purpose that give shape and further context to the idea. She just kind of rambles with the same idea. And then, like I believe one person pointed out, when she does get upset, she just spends infinite amount of time, just tons and tons of time. She literally can't help but just talk about how rude and awful that person is, even after they say, okay, fine, you know what? I'm not going to interrupt. Go, explain your point. And Candace Owens goes, well, as I was saying, I mean, it's a mark of, it's just so rude and terrible. It goes on 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, instead of using that time to just go, okay, fine, here's my point. She instead just responds. And again, I'm looking at these comments of the Charlie Kirk one, and there are just, it's absolutely inundated with the same comments that I was seeing in the Candace Owens one. Comments of, again, you know, people who are making valid points are voted out, idiots are voted in. That could happen. And again, sometimes I think the votes are happening a little bit too quickly, but all of these things like, oh, you know, the real conversation starts, then people get voted out. And if you're not angry enough, the group votes you out. You know, students need a class of civility, manners, and humbleness. You know, various comments like this, again, coming from, again, people who have like a single name followed by 3 or 4 digits, just random digits. Again, everything always just gives me red flags of just bots. Shitloads of bots just coming in to make sure that everyone knows that this conversation was unproductive because the college students were rude and mean and terrible and all that, blah, 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 and we couldn't even get into a conversation. That always indicates to me, just like with Candace Owens ones, is that they kind of probably got their ass blown out pretty good. Candace Owens and everyone, and that it doesn't, that the speaker, this conservative speaker, doesn't really come off well, or it's very obvious that the argument didn't go anywhere. Maybe they just do this as preemptive thing, like they just have the bot farms come in and make these comments no matter what, just to help muddy the water. All right, we are hydrated. Let's go.
My first prompt is, abortion is murder and should be illegal.
All right. So we're starting off pretty good. So abortion is murder and should be illegal. So this is ultimately ways in which you would want to discuss this and how we would investigate this. Either side is, one, we need to define murder. What is murder? Like the legal precedent, the concept of, again, this is going to go back into concept of life. And abortion is murder and should be illegal. Well, if it's murder, then its illegality, I suppose, comes into the forefront, or it's kind of comes from it. It stems from. But we also could discuss, are there murders or similar murder-like elements that are not illegal? Things that we can acknowledge that are technically murder, but should not be illegal. So there's just the two avenues we can go about with the initial arguments here. The next thing is defining abortion. That's probably going to be relatively easy, but all these things, these three aspects are the key points. The key words in here: abortion, murder, illegal. So one way you can kind of diffuse this aspect is abortion is murder and should be illegal. Oftentimes the punishment when something is illegal is based upon impact and or moral, social, blah, blah, blah kind of aspects here. How much damage did it cause to society in general, to the individual? Murder is pretty damaging, but we can also see how we might talk about illegality, because again, somebody could say, okay, fine, we'll make it illegal, but we'll just make it a fine of $500. And then he could do $500 for murder. It's like this, yeah, well, it's not murder. It's the equivalent of destroying an animal. Like, again, killing a dog. That's illegal. Gets you a fine, usually. Again, depending on the severity and the how many times you do it. Again, so like that would be a rough way to go about it, but I feel like given some time, you could probably come up with a way in which you can satisfy the conditions of murder, illegality, or at the very least illegality in favor of Kirk, but then undermine and completely undermine, kind of go after this. So the next thing we would go into is like, okay, abortion is murder and should be illegal. That means that all avenues of abortion are murder and should be illegal. So any kind of eptopic, oh my god, eptopic, blah, 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 eptopic, hold on. My brain is short-circuiting. Ectopic pregnancy. Jesus. Just could not get that out. Ectopic. Jesus. Just fucking that word up. All kinds of... Either way. Yeah. Ectopic. Just this very simple word, and I can't get it out. Jesus, it is really rough for me. I don't know why that one's a rough one for me. Ectopic. Ectopic pregnancy. Again, those things, those type of pregnancies, for the most part, are incredibly dangerous to the mother's life, the prospective mother's life, and they frequently result in stillbirths or, again, miscarriages. And if they don't do that, again, trying to carry them to fruition, if you would think of it like that, is, again, incredibly, almost stupidly dangerous. Depending on the exact severity of it, they are incredibly high chances for not just death of the mother, but death of the fetus, even if the fetus isn't like going to be stillborn or is basically miscarriage. So in those cases, again, Charlie Kirk's statement, okay, so we cannot deal with this. Oh, well, we just carry it to fruition. We're like, yeah, but this is such a reckless, unnecessary procedure because we know that the child's likelihood of survival is incredibly low and that there is no way to really make it better. And no way we can do so without causing extraordinary risk to the mother. Now, you might go, oh, mothers want to risk their children, blah, blah, blah. But or mothers would risk their lives for their children. It's like, yeah, but this is from a societal, governmental, and from a medical standpoint. Yes, people are willing to risk their lives in very stupid, costly manner for something that they love. That's great. You know, the dad wants to run into the burning building to get their children in there, but the fireman is going to stop him because now they're going to have to save 2 motherfucking people. Their whole point is to do what is the greatest good and saves the most life at the most guaranteed highest probability. And working from there. Yes, it's not it's a great sense, it's a great idea, and it's a great thing about humanity is that we're willing to risk our lives to save our things that we love, but sometimes that doesn't help the situation because you don't have the skills, ability, and technique to positively influence that situation, such as, again, in the ectopic pregnancy. There's nothing the woman can do that will make it safer for the baby and safer for her. Not really. Like, there's nothing that she can do, and there's not a whole hell of a lot that the doctors can do to make this. They can do little bits and pieces here, but it is very, again, this is one of those, it's one of those moments that's like, look, I'm sorry, it has to be aborted. We have to go in there and essentially do a complicated form of abortion. Otherwise, we lose 2 people. Charlie Kirk doesn't want to think about stuff like that. And he also doesn't want to think about miscarriages. He doesn't want to think about the moral and philosophical implications of this. He just, again, he is a Christian hard right dogmatic individual, and he doesn't want to think about the consequences and the actual applicability and feasibility of his beliefs, because they're beliefs. They don't have to have reason or rationality or anything tied to them. They just have to have a sense of feeling. So let's see how they go. Jesus.
All right.
Can I maybe go?
All right.
Okay, hello, what's your
Hi,
name?
Juliana.
I feel like the other girl shouldn't have got it, because if we were to actually examine this, you might note she is fully on the chair, whereas you only got half a cheek. I feel like precedent should have been is that the majority of her body was over the chair. You were not. She was obviously faster than you. She should get the... More importantly, they actually came from kind of the same angle. So she was faster and more insistent. She got more of her butt on that chair. She should have had it. I'm going to call foul immediately. Foul. Yellow card. We gotta call this one out. Sorry, Julianne. I think it's Julian. You should not have had... You were too slow. Yes, you are larger than her, so maybe you have technically more body mass over that chair, but look at that chair. If we look very carefully, she's very clearly more on that chair. It's like we got to do the zoom in, like with the tennis, see if the ball was in or out of the lines here, but I'm pretty sure she's pretty much on that chair. And look at that. Look how much she had to slip over. She barely had one ass on there. One leg on there. Nah. Whoever is sitting in a chair is determined by how much of their butt as a percentage is on that chair. Those are the rules. You know that from, again, what is it? I can't remember what that stupid game is called, where the music plays, musical chairs. Music plays, the second the music stops, whoever sits down. Partly is about basically who can ever force the other one off physically, but if you're not doing that, it is majority of ass. The majority of the butt as a percentage on the chair is who gets that chair. Sorry, Juliana. You gotta go back, but we won't. All right, let's see what Juliana has to say now that we're done with that. We gotta have some fun, because this is gonna be miserable, because Charlie Kirk is actually kind of an evil piece of shit. He's a vicious little bastard.
to meet you.
Nice to meet
Can
you.
we get our terms right first?
Yeah.
Okay. Abortion is the forcible ending of the viability of a being in utero, otherwise known as a fetus. Do we agree that's what abortion is?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I would not agree with that. Is the forcible, again, all the way up to their ending of a being's life? Nah, I would say, again, being is doing a lot of words there. I would suggest that, no. We can agree on it's forceful. I'm not sure I would call it ending of life, because at this point, one, not really sure this would constitute life any more so than any, again, we might say single cell organisms of some degree, or slightly multi-cell organisms have some degree of life. I might okay with that, but I'm not going to call it a being. Because a being, both philosophically and psychologically, implies a couple of things that need to be there beyond just simply biological existence. I would rather this term, rather than being, as a biological process. Because at that point, it has, again, at that point, and especially up to like 9 weeks or something like that, for the most part, it's not really a being. There is no being, there is no consciousness, there is no even possibility of awareness, of sense of self, of anything else of like that. Even preference for existence. This thing is, like they've said, a clump of cells that are just a process directed. Not directed by intentionality or desire or anything like that. It's directed purely by almost like a chemical thing. This is like assuming that when you make the foam spout out of a volcano for your middle school science project because you poured vinegar and baking soda together. It's like, well, it was designed to desire to erupt. It didn't desire to erupt and expand and produce lots of gas and bubbles. That's just chemical process. And much the same way, again, up until it's probably around, I think it's 9 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, before you actually, even 15 weeks before you actually start seeing anything that would even remotely suggest a sense of being. Again, I would not agree with this at all, because again, that's where he's going to try to catch you, is that it's a life. One, we kill life all the goddamn time, so I don't know why that ever works there, but I would never agree to that.
In utero, otherwise known as a fetus. Do we agree that's what abortion is?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then murder is the intentional taking of life, different than killing or sudden death. So murder would be the intent, with intent, taking another life. Do we agree?
No. Really? It would be the intent, or the intent to intend, and the desire to take a life with the intention of taking a life, but that life is human. That may be very anthropomorphically centric and human egotistical, but that is both legally and traditionally and morally and all manner of crap. That is definition. Murder is directed at human existence and human beings. If you are not a human being, we don't murder you. We might kill you, and we can describe that as false in other directions. But again, we do not count murder, and Charlie Kirk would not count the ending of a dog's life or the ending of a cow's life as murder. And if he does, then he's okay with murder. So that leads back to the problem. And I would not agree with this. You need to, because again, he's a slimy little bastard with a tiny face and a giant head. You cannot let him have any room, because these are the same fucking talking points he's had for goddamn so long. They haven't even really refined that much.
Agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, and then we agree that murder in general in society should be illegal.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So yeah, no, I do want to preface that I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
So I think one really important thing that the Bible says is to not judge. And just going back to the topic, I think there's a big difference between, cells in utero than a living, breathing, existing being. And while I do believe it's murder, and that's just my personal belief, right? I don't believe in telling people what to do with their bodies. That's not up to me, and it's not up to us as well as Christians
But
to judge.
should we prevent murder in society?
For sure, yeah.
Then it should be.
So again, the raising the flags pretty quickly for a couple of things. One, it's kind of a weak argument, and he's just going to go, "Oh, well, should we prevent murder? Well, then, it's murder. We're okay with this." Again, it's just kind of a weak argument. Again, you can't. His definition and his terms are not actually applicable for running into this. This is okay. That's probably why they changed it from woke students to liberal college students, because there's probably more than a few like religious individuals and Catholics like she is. So, yeah, this argument's not really great.
But I think that it's really different, right? Because, these people aren't.
Yeah, it happens.
Sorry, nice to meet you.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Like, again, I don't like when they have to vote him out that quickly, but again, the problem is that she was not going to do a whole hell of a lot with there. Seems nice enough, and she probably does have a good argument for a differentiation on this, relating to like the ideas of freedom, of even religion, of freedom of shit like that, and that the definition of murder and that her objections to this are on religious grounds, not necessarily explicitly outside moral grounds or something like that. So she cannot force us. She might have taken it that direction, but it probably would have taken too long. And boy, we got some eagerness here. She got on the chair. See, everyone else followed the rules. The second your butt gets on that chair and it's in majority, see that guy, he didn't get it. He immediately, the guys instantly know. Every guy knows, of course. Majority of the butt is on the chair. Mine is not. They have to take precedent. All right, let's go.
What's your name?
Naima.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, can I just ask,
So we've seen her before. She tends to have some okay stuff in these Jubilee things. Let's see.
at how many weeks do you think that a fetus is viable?
Well, viability and moral worth are two different things.
No, but I'm asking you, at how many weeks do
Well,
you think
at
a
about
fetus
20
is viable?
weeks, a baby can survive outside of utero.
So it's actually 24 to 26
Well, it's
weeks?
20. The youngest ever in a NICU unit actually happened in San Diego, not far from here, and survived at 20 weeks.
Okay, so under Roe v. Wade, 93% of abortions happened in the first 13 weeks of pregnancy. That's 93% of the abortions happened well before a fetus is technically viable
For
as
sure.
a form
So
of life.
let's go into viability. So what is it about, let's say, a 6-week baby that has a heartbeat, its own DNA, fingerprint, brain waves, that is less moral worth?
I'm going to go ahead and suggest that more than a fair amount of what he is saying there is probably not quite true. Like, there's some aspects that are going to be true, but like it has fingerprints, it has this, it has that. It's just like, again, I would have to go back at this isn't stuff I study daily. But again, I'm actually fairly certain he's probably way overestimating a lot of those features as being developed at like 6 weeks, and then he's going to go on the viability argument. Okay, so what makes the viability of something more valuable than the other? Again, this seems again disingenuous again on his part, because we use viability and probability to assess value all the time. And in fact, again, he's going to use it in so many different avenues, especially economic and or social values, that the idea that viability, and in many ways viability is kind of just another aspect of probability, probabilistic aspects, we use this to assess value all the time. He wants to go, okay, well, some things have such universal value that at the beginning and at the end, it is always 100% the most valuable thing. It is always 100%. It's not like one of those things where viability to where it doesn't reach full potential of value until X moment. Then after that, it has it, and then maybe other factors may lower this. But again, Charlie Kirk's not against the death penalty. Charlie Kirk's not against wars of righteousness and necessity. He's absolutely in favor of bombing Middle Eastern targets, terrorists, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, but that is ending a life. That is ending a life that is sacred and 100% viable and 100% probabilistically likely to produce happiness. Could also produce sadness, but again, you're just looking at the value of life, and life's value never, if it starts at 100% at the very beginning of conception, even before it has any potential viability or probability of causing any happiness or joy to be entered into existence, it is just there. And that then at no point in time, regardless of what you do, does your life ever stop having that aspect. Now, he's going to want to say, no, that's not true. And he's going to appeal to like other things like, evil, and we need to get rid of evil. But it's like this, but evil is life. How can you want to get rid of some life in some situations and not get rid of life in other situations? And if so, if you get to choose this based upon, well, they've done an action, they deserve to go. Technically, the fetus has done nothing good and it's done nothing bad. It is agnostic and neutral. So you suggest, until they do something bad, we have to give them this right. Okay, cool. Here's the thing. If having the child, they know probabilistically, will cause pain, suffering, destitution, or any other things, or there is a likelihood of that, you would stop it. If you knew somebody, like, again, stop drunk drivers from driving, sadly, regrettably, this biological process, it starts and it may cause pain and suffering, even if it doesn't necessarily intend to. Again, intention doesn't matter in this point, and choice doesn't matter. The fetus does not intend nor choose to cause pain, suffering, and hardship and whatnot to the mother, but it will inevitably do that. Even if we assume that financially they can, again, would you, Charlie Kirk, allow somebody just because they're alive to torture you and cause you pain and suffering and cause you severe biological distress for 9 months and then culminates in an extreme degree of biological pain and distress? Distress. I don't know. I need some water. I'm doubling over my words. Distress. Jesus. I was like saying distress over there. Distress. Why I'm stumbling here, but either way, I would, again, this is ways you can go about trying to go after Charlie Kirk, because again, Kirk does not care about murder as much as he does, and more importantly, he doesn't even care about illegality necessarily, because he is a Christian nationalist. The only rules of law that he agrees with and cares about are the rules of law according to God and in the Bible. And even then, I don't think he gives two rats shits about that, because he ignores numerous laws about them, implicit and explicit laws. They try to separate it out with certain degrees of Christian apologetics, try to separate like what are laws and what are just like guidelines. I can't remember the specific wording that they use to try to suggest that some of these things were just suggestions, guidelines for culturally, in the culture moments, this is what you should do because right now it's good, versus universal laws that don't change. try to make that apologetics, but let's go on.
Worth than an 88-year-old right now with dementia in a home down the street. That person requires assistance, requires help. Why is it that the 6-week baby is of less moral worth?
Well, first of all, it's not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the f? I'm sorry, is this
It means little human being.
His smile is very creepy. Okay.
Smiling is creepy.
No, your smile specifically.
Got it.
But let's go back to we're losing track here.
No, but what species is the fetus?
The fetus is not a species yet. It's technically classified as a parasite until it is
Also,
viable. No, I want to talk to you about something very quickly.
Also, it should a couple of things to note. Sorry, I was slightly distracted. One, I don't believe he is right about the fetus meaning a little person or whatever he says here. But that is a genuinely fucking nuts. Look at that. Just imagine that. You wake up in the middle of the night, get up to go get a glass of water, and you see that face just standing in the kitchen. Charlie Kirk in his little blue suit, just looking at you like that. Fucking terrifying. I know he was trying to like do it like a mocking smile, like you know what you are doing kind of thing. But he's just so awful, and he's such an awkward person that Jesus wept. Yeah, I would have a hard time paying attention to that. One, I'm fairly certain that fetus doesn't mean let's see, what does he say?
Not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
Now, this is one of those things where, again, this sounds good to you, but at the same time, think about this. He is trying to justify the moral necessity and the objective, like, biological nature of a thing by looking at the etymology of it. So we'll ignore the morality here and just go in with the etymology of the word as somehow being determinate or otherwise insightful into its existence. Now, anybody who has spent any goddamn time thinking about this for longer than 2 seconds will realize that sounds really stupid to do, because half the shit, like, just think of any animal names. Just look at the names we give for animals. What is the etymology of some of them? Half of them were like, like we're talking about like sea manatees, and it's like man fish or some shit like that. I don't remember what it is for manatee, but you could find dozens of them to where, or especially if it's not in English, like he's wanting to go back to Latin, but it's like this, yeah, but this doesn't work at all for Latin or any other language, because they weren't touching upon, not giving a thing a name doesn't somehow redefine the thing biologically and reality wise. It's at best just a shorthand descriptor for language reference. It has nothing to do with the actual object. Like, again, it's so mind-boggling because there are so many examples you could try to think about that have nothing to do, like, oh, well, yeah, just go through the animal kingdom and look at all of the names, and you'll realize oftentimes, like, okay, well, this is a combination of, like, water dog. And you're like this, well, like, what is it? Is that otters or something like that? Like, one of the names for otters was, like, water dog. And you might just, well, I could kind of see how they're describing it, like, because it's water-based, and they kind of behave and can have a playful nature that looks like dogs playing. But then like, oh, well, does that mean it's a canine? Does that mean that it has any properties of dog and or water? No. It lives in the water, but it doesn't have properties of water, and it sure as shit isn't a dog. Like, remember, this is how stupid this is. It sounds smart when you think like, oh, well, what does fetus mean? Fetus means little person. One, like a little human being. One, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. It says something along the lines of offspring, or like a hatching of like youth or young or the something like that. It's much more generic than human being, but it might have been more used to refer to the hatching of human beings. But again, we could also look at it like that. I'm pretty sure. Like, let me look it up on Wikipedia here. We'll look it up just real quick. And it's off screen. Sorry. Yeah. It's hatching of young. That's one of the Oxford English Dictionary. That's one of the connections there. It's like offspring, bring forth, or hatching of young. Do humans hatch anything? You could turn this back onto it. It's like this. I'm sorry. And this is the problem, is that nobody's going to be studying. I'm going to study a 1,000+ year old word or some kind of actual truth, objective meaning about the biological and chemical reality of a thing. Nobody's going to look at the word. It's language. It's its own different fucking animal. It makes, again, nobody's going to do this, but it would be great if somebody actually knew the origin of fetus and then kind of go, okay, well, fetus actually means hatching of the young, and you might be saying young of people, that's fine. But if you want to use the fact that fetus might refer to humanity as being some kind of objective, claim to why this is, then do humans hatch? Do we hatch from a fucking egg, Charlie? Sorry. Flipping out on this one, but it was dumb.
What the? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I do like that. Like, again, all of these things sound really great in isolation when you're talking amongst your friends and your little conservative powwows and whatnot. But here's the thing. Again, it's not a great reaction, but it's a very honest one, is that, again, when people want to look at the etymology of a word and they want to defend really higher concepts by looking at just the basic description of a word, and it's not even it's like the word, but it's like the ancient old meaning of it, like the etymology. It's such a weak fucking thing. Unless you were literally wanting to look at ancient Greek and like Latin societies back then when they were saying fetus just every day, it was the common vocabulary because they're speaking Latin. Okay, and I want to look at how might they in that moment have conceived of and conceptualized the act of giving birth and this process that we know much more about and much differently. How do they see it? Then we could see, okay, the word that they're using. We just use it because, again, we have a lot of loan words and shorthand Latin stuff because it was just the trend to do in science.
It means little human being.
Jesus fucking Christ. That is the worst smile I've ever seen. And I don't have a particularly good smile. I have a bit of a serial killer smile myself. That one's bad. That's thumbnail. Everyone should always make that the thumbnail. He should never live this down. This is the worst I've ever seen.
Ooh, his smile is very creepy. Okay.
Smiling is creepy.
No, your
Notice
smile
you can
specifically.
Got it.
But
Notice he can smile normally, but that's just nuts, dude.
let's go back to we're losing track here.
No, but what species is the fetus?
The fetus is not a species yet. It's technically classified as a parasite until it is
wow.
viable.
So
now I want to talk to you about something very quickly.
I can't let you get past that. Are you saying a baby is a disease or a tumor?
A parasite is not a disease and a tumor. Those are not the same thing. A parasite is defined as something that cannot survive outside of its host. A baby, before it is viable, cannot survive.
So, Charlie Kirk is acting very upset about this, but in many ways, she is doing exactly what he just did, is that she's using the definition of parasite and the concept of what a parasite is from a biological and what they do to describe, yeah, at that stage, you could classify a fetus as a parasite. It's you can absolutely do that. Charlie Kirk's trying to get all ruffle his feathers, whatever. But honestly, at that stage, it's like tit for tat. I'm sorry, you started and you opened this up, Kirk. You can't get upset when they throw the same kind of strategy right back at you.
Outside of a woman's womb.
Got it. So let's
Therefore,
extrapolate that.
It is not a living organism.
Are old people with Alzheimer's and dementia that are being assisted every day,
Are they in the womb? They're being assisted not with biological function. They're being assisted with medical intervention, perhaps, but mostly social intervention. Again, if are you suggesting that for the fetus to survive, like you want social services to come to its house and give it some food? Like, what are we doing here? And again, the big thing is that, look again. Throughout this argument, you will note one thing about Charlie Kirk and about all of these people, Candace Owens. They don't have actual good solutions or processes or how things work. They just have condemnations and desires to restrict. And that's it. They don't look at consequences. They look at, like, how would we go about doing this process? How would we do these things? They don't really have, like, it's like the difference between just having opinions versus policy. These types never have policy. And when they do put together a policy, you always go, wow, that is the worst fucking policy in existence. This is so unfeasible and awful. It's almost magic how you produce.
they parasites?
No, they're not parasites. They're human beings who are on the brink of death.
Got it. So
They're not going to be able to survive.
4-month-old that requires mom's breast milk and requires daily changes and feedings cannot survive without its own. Is my 4-month-old a parasite?
Socially, yeah. But again, we're talking biological. You wanted to put things in the womb, so now we're in the womb. You're taking it out and trying to make an equivalent. This life is the same as that. Okay, well, how about this? Sperm. Is sperm alive? Is sperm something that we should keep alive all the time? Probably. I'm sure he's anti-masturbation, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that, if you aren't using your sperm, they do die. Like, your sperm count, like, they talk about the sperm count goes up, go down, but, like, you were constantly, like, replacing cells, you're replacing sperm, you're replacing all manner of stuff. Biological crap. I think, what is it? I think it is about a year, or, no, it's not a year. I can't remember the exact time frame, but how long it takes for every cell in your body to be reproduced, to kind of be replaced, or a majority of your cells and your just all matter of bits in your blood cells, your white blood cells, muscle, everything. These little bits and pieces, cells, how long it takes for it all to be replaced. I can't remember how long it is, but it's not as long as you think it is. So technically, just by aging, you have killed an entire human being. It just takes you about a year to do it. Your very biological process dies and is recreated dozens and dozens of times, hundreds of times throughout your life. So, again, it's a stupid argument of semantics, but again, he's trying, not this guy, but Charlie Kirk, again, is wanting to make a comparison between a biological process and a social one. Two things aren't comparable.
Your baby can breathe on its own. Your baby can drink water from its mouth to its stomach.
But it cannot.
Your baby can
it
eat
hunt?
food.
Can it gather? Can it reason?
But
so what? Can you, Kirk? Can you survive right now without McDonald's, without grocery stores? Notice how that actually gets kind of stupid. The vast majority of people cannot survive right now without all of the social and cultural aspects that create civilization. And even then, even going back to the Stone Age, we still needed, to some degree, socialization and whatnot to survive. both for child rearing and whatnot. This is not 1-to-1. This is kind of a silly way to do about it, and it sounds good. Again, like all of these arguments, Candace's arguments, and now Kirk's, they all sound good if you only think about it for about as long as a 30-second clip lasts. That's it. And then it's just immediately gone. You just find your answer, you write it down in stone, and you never think about that ever again. And anytime somebody brings up the topic, you just read from this stone tablet that's in your brain, and then you put it away and you never ever think about it. You can't actually think about these things, because like with Candace Owens, the longer you think about what they're saying and actually taking it seriously and trying to apply that logical process and conclusions and the premises that he's trying to set up, all this, the whole logical structure of it, the longer you examine it and just think about how it works, the more you realize, wow, this is really bad. This just doesn't work.
That's not what qualifies something as being a living organism. Being a living organism simply means, can you survive outside of a womb, outside of your host?
Got it. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. Why does that then equate to moral viability?
It equates to scientific viability.
Why? Under what standard?
Because it is not alive, and you are advocating for the rights of something that is not technically a life.
Got it. So what is something
while
that has
sacrificing the needs of the human woman who is alive.
Got it. So, but a mom can survive.
Yes.
Without the baby in her. Right?
Yes.
The baby cannot survive without the mom.
Yes.
But a mom cannot survive without her lungs. So it's not her body, it's in her body.
Oh. What? What the? What? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We're getting some good ones. He just compared a fetus to an organ. I want you all to just let that marinate in your brain for a little bit. Because I don't think he's marinated much on this thought. Again, he doesn't think about a lot of things. But that's genuinely fucking stupid. God damn. People, this is going to be rough, because one, people are probably going to be a bit more aggressive, because he tends to be a bit more aggressive. And he's a man. People feel more comfortable being aggressive towards a man than a woman. So this is going to be rough, because they're going to be much more conflict. There's just going to be a lot more conflict between Charlie Kirk and any of his interlocutors. So that's why the comments are making sure to preempt all they're saying is they're just fighting, and they're just yelling over and yelling at Kirk, and that just shows how terrible and awful and dumb college students are, because they think yelling louder makes them right. So it's like, no, let's really think. This deserves to get yelled at, because that's genuinely fucking dumb. I'm always shocked. Like with Candace Owens, I was kind of shocked, because I always forget, or maybe I'm just too nice, because I just always believe in human capacity for intelligence and intelligent thought and the critical thinking skills that can go into this, and I just assume people are going to try to use them and develop them. And god damn it, am I always shocked at how really stupid people whose job is to just talk and think about stuff, how dumb their ideas are.
It's not her DNA, so it's not her choice. So it
actually is directly her DNA. It is 100%. It's 50% of her DNA.
Half her DNA.
I'm sorry, the lung thing, I would have jumped on the lung thing like this. Did you just compare a fetus to a fucking organ? Do you not understand what a baby, you keep talking about what a fetus is. Do you not actually understand what a fetus is versus an organ? Do you not, more importantly, it doesn't even feature into this. Like, I don't know where he was going with this, like choice, or she doesn't have a choice on this matter. Like,
he's gonna win, I'm telling you. This could take a while.
Okay, first of all,
do we have our terms correct? We agree?
This could take a while. Yeah, because you're a little scared, because you're 31 years old and you're scared of this 19-year-old whippersnapper who's kind of a TikTok debate bro himself, just kind of on the left liberalish side. I don't know. He kind of blows up after this point. But yeah, do we have our terms established? No. We're gonna have honestly, nobody should accept any of those terms. The majority of them are absolutely arguable.
I'm telling you, this could take a while.
Okay, first of all,
Do we have our terms correct? We agree?
Actually, no. So first
Okay,
of all,
got
I
it.
would like to refine our terms. I
Got
have
it.
2 points to bring up after that, though. So you define murder as like intentionally like killing a human being.
Mhm.
I think that's a very poor way to define murder, because if someone were to like break into my home and point a gun at the heads of me and everybody I love, and I intentionally kill them to prevent them from killing my family, I don't think I murdered them, right? So I would define murder as the unjustified termination of a human life.
You're making a good point. Let me further clarify that. So, self-defense is
Right.
very warranted.
Exactly, right?
But I can see where you're going to go with how that has to go with.
Yeah, and I have to preempt that immediately because I really don't want to go that route. Because that would imply that the self takes precedent over other selves that seek, intentionally or not, to cause harm and or disturbance of you. And thus, you have some degree of right to defense and right to autonomy from other people's insertion. And he does not want to go that route because it's death for his whole murder charge. If it's death of murder charge, then the whole thing is now just abortion should be illegal. But then why?
Abortion, but we can go down that
Yeah.
journey in a second.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I kind of do want to give you my argument insofar as why I'm pro-choice, why I think it's justified. But first, I think that, you know, your position is quite absurd, right? Because you're saying that it is murder to kill a human being, right, at any point in development, especially when it's in the mother's womb. My question to you would be, well, does this make women with IUDs murderers? Because it is the case that in some scenarios, an IUD will allow for conception to occur, meaning there's a unique human life there, but it will prevent its implantation, intentionally killing it.
Well, no, preventing implantation is not necessarily the same thing as terminating a.
Why not? Why not? Especially for a process like that, to where, like, okay, if I have either through the pill or something like that, I have within me, and I'm just taking it, and I'm a woman, and I'm on the pill. I'm not taking Plan B or abortion pills or anything like that. I'm just taking I'm taking either, it could even just not even be pregnancy and birth control. It could just be like various like hormone pills or something along those lines, or medication that will make it so that I can't get pregnant. I can have sex, do the activity. The sperm can go to the egg and try to inseminate, and it might even, I can easily see and understand or believe that the sperm can reach the egg. Egg can be fertilized in a sense, but then the fertilization process doesn't actually come to fruition, even though the sperm has reached the egg. It has pierced it. Mr. President, plane has hit the tower. Another plane has hit the tower. My God, it's penetrated the defenses, and it's gotten into the egg. But because of the environment and because of the chemicals that are present in there, fertilization does not occur as it should and becomes inviable. The process is stopped partway through, or even after it is fertilized, as it tries to grow and become a thing, become a person. According to Charlie, it is stopped or otherwise prevented and thus killed. So again, is that murder? So you're against abortion. So then would you be against every single, we develop a much more robust kind of thing, or even just a general implant that, hey, do we just make this normalized to where young women are all getting IUDs or other form, we maybe develop a couple of medications that are less harmful than birth control, because birth control can also have some hormone imbalances. But just anything like that, even just a shot, just normalize it to where you can have sex, but you will not be able to produce a viable offspring or fetus. It's never going to happen. And if you want to get pregnant, stop taking it. Stop the process. Would he be okay with that? He would fucking not be okay with that for various reasons. Oftentimes they're going to be very empty, much like here. But again, that's a fairly good kind of point, is that is killing that process. So why is, you're saying the fetus and all this stuff, and the fetus, and the second it is fertilized, that at conception, more importantly, that's also it. You say at conception. Conception, for the most part, has to do with the act of it. Not necessarily the fertilization of the egg. You want to try to put it to fertilization of the egg. But I would have to look up the definition and the kind of the thought process of that. But I'm pretty sure more often than not, conception is related more to the actual, like, act of sex. I would have to look that up. I could be 100% wrong, so don't take this too far. But let me sorry, I need to reset something on one of my my monitoring station here. I think we're good. Yeah, we should be good. All right, let's go.
A fertilized egg. For example, if you take any implant
life there, but it will prevent its implantation, intentionally killing it.
Well, no, preventing implantation is not necessarily the same thing as terminating a fertilized egg. For example, if you take Plan B, again, it's not the same thing. Preventing the production of progesterone is not the same thing as terminating a being that has been fertilized. You do not know for a fact that the egg has been fertilized. You do.
Okay. You don't know. Again, it's wonderful that they all do this. It's like they use science only as far as it's useful. Okay, the egg is fertilized. All right. So, can we have abortion? Well, no, now it is a person. How? It's just a fertilized egg at this point. It's a little zygote. It is nothing. So, are you okay with what is the moral and the biological? What is this difference between the egg about to be fertilized and then the egg is fertilized? There's almost no real difference other than, again, just appealing to some weird Sky Daddy kind of aspect here. That's why people don't, again, you don't want to think about this too hard. The more you do, the more you realize, man, it's really based on just nothing.
Do not know that when you have an IUD.
Okay, yeah, so preventing fertilization or implantation to the uterine lining is killing a conceived zygote. So what happens? A sperm goes into the egg, right? The egg becomes fertilized. It's a conceived zygote. In some cases, it will prevent the implantation of the conceived zygote, killing the conceived zygote.
In some cases, correct.
So what do you...
So, in those cases, is that murder? Would be the thing. In those cases, is that murder? So, more importantly, if there's the probability of this causing murder in some of those cases, then would you ban IUDs? Would you ban these kind of things that are
in some cases women with IUDs
preventive?
are murderers?
Of course not. They're not murders. We do not know for a case. That's like saying that.
So what's the difference between an IUD killing a conceived zygote and like a mother going to Planned Parenthood and killing the fetus in her womb?
Well, so you're asking two separate things. If they knew for certain, to be more clear, that I have a fertilized egg and I'm going to take a drug to prevent that fertilized egg from attaching to their uterine wall, then yes, that is an act of killing or murder, of course.
Okay, so do you think all murder...
And again, this only makes sense if you have very little understanding of human biology and reproduction, because what you are defending right there, what you are talking about, is just not a human life. It just isn't.
Murderers should go to jail?
Do I think all murderers should go to jail? I mean, on third degree murder. However, no, I don't think women that got abortions or had IUDs should go to jail, because I think that they have been deceived by mass culture.
Yeah, but it's illegal. And I think it's been deceived by mass culture, mass media, and big pharma and woke ideology, tricking them into doing these things. Oh, women have been getting abortions since like the dawn of fucking time. like you can go back, and in fact, I'm about 85% certain that the Bible even talks about the proper process in which one might go about getting a abortion, like the specific like weeds and herbs and various things that you would take to induce a miscarriage, an abortion, essentially. Um, I'm pretty sure that's maybe like a 75-80% on that one, but I'm pretty sure it even talks about that. So this idea that, oh, they've been tricked by modern mass culture. Were people in the Bible tricked by modern mass culture and woke ideology? Why go off on this tangent?
That got abortions or had IUDs should go to jail, because I think that they have been deceived by mass culture and mass propaganda. Secondly, the people who should go to jail are the abortionists, who are the ones that have been putting.
Why? Why not the ones who have been tricked? You know? Why not? Like, I can be tricked into doing something illegal, but I still did something illegal. The fact that I was tricked into doing that might be a small mitigating factor, but no matter what, I should still be punished. Again, he would also be somebody who is not against like the January Sixers. This is actually probably why he wants to make this thing. I know it sounds kind of weird to tie it back to that, but that's a big thing. Is one, he the ideology has advanced a little bit here in the sense that they know that they can't put women in jail for this because it's just not politically and socially viable to have that opinion. But on the other side is, again, they will ignore the January 6th. It's a small little thing that I like to bring up, but we'll ignore that for a bit and just kind of stay in the pocket here. But again, it just doesn't make, like, why not? If abortion is murder and should be illegal, then the people providing it should be charged and the people getting it. You don't just put, and again, you would have to ask Charlie Kirk, but he'd probably agree. Like, okay, should a drug, so somebody goes and buys drugs from a drug dealer, which of them goes to prison? Which one of them should go to prison? Which should, even if there's difference in severity of sentence, they both are punished by the law, aren't they? So, are you okay with only punishing drug dealers, but all the people who buy the drugs, they are not punished any degree? Charlie Kirk, and a lot of conservative ideology will not agree with that. So then, this is disingenuous. The only reason he is saying this is because he knows politically and socially it is not viable to say the extremism that he actually does believe.
The abortion pill, the ones that have been doing procedures, the ones that have been going into the third trimester and breaking babies' backs and inserting them with syringes while the babies are crying.
Breaking their backs and inserting them while the babies are crying.
Third trimester and breaking babies' backs and inserting them with syringes while the babies are crying and suffocating.
Crying is oh, they're not crying. Even in third trimester, they're not crying. And again, you're talking about suffering. Like, I don't. What abortions are happening in the third trimester? What percentage of them are happening that way? And then crying. They're not crying. They literally can't cry. They just literally can't cry. This is just pure emotional drivel. Just pure shock jock emotional drivel to try to make this sound awful. But again, the vast majority of the time, like, you think, oh, these terrible people committing this abortion, do you think the doctor wants to do an abortion at third trimester? Do you think the mom who carried the fucking baby till third trimester wanted an abortion? Think about that. That's months. It's not like it just snuck up on her. She knows she's pregnant for months. So it's obvious the only abortions that are going to be happening in the third trimester, you insensitive, disgusting prick of a human being, are probably an extremely small percentage and extremely unfortunate. something went wrong, something went terrible to where now the child is either unviable and is technically alive, but is basically dying. And if they're dying, chances are they would need to get it out of the mother, because you can't have something dead inside of you, because more often than not, it just, like, it'll rot and fucking kill you. Or this has gotten to a point to where the child might be somewhat viable, potentially, but, or maybe even not 100% viable. Maybe it's got some severe problems, and the mother's life is at risk. Like, the amount of abortions that are happening in third fucking trimester. I believe he was saying third trimester. In third trimester, nobody is getting a fucking abortion in third trimester that wanted an abortion. They are getting it because it is life and death. It's a decision that they have to make, and it's probably a heartbreaking one. So for him to describe, oh, they're going in there and doing this, the doctor doesn't want to do that. I know. Look, my sister-in-law, technically not yet sister-in-law because I haven't done the actual ceremony, but that's because of various fucking life things. But basically, my brother's married to her, and all but, like, the paper isn't signed, but they're married. My sister-in-law is a fertility doctor, fertility clinic, works in a fertility clinic, but also she kind of contracts out to, I think other hospitals, because she's a specialist and she specializes in difficult pregnancy. That's kind of her thing. She does also like normal ones for the most part, but her specialty, because of her training and experience in the background, she tends to get thrown a lot and tends to get recommended through various other doctors, hospitals, whatever, difficult pregnancies that are high risk. And she's very good at her fucking job, and she is absolutely dedicated to preserving, like, this woman wants this child. Her entire being is dedicated to keeping that woman and that child alive. And she does miraculous work to do so. She does a hell of a lot of work, and it takes a lot out of her. And it's especially difficult because, again, there are sometimes, again, she has come home and she's talked about it with my brother, and she talked about it with us, and kind of referenced it to myself and other bits of the family, that every once in a while there's some really bad weeks because you have this expectant mother and she is pregnant and she's really happy, wants the baby, but she has some genetic or like some issues, like medical issues that just make pregnancy difficult. And she'll, as multiple times, as my brother has said, and she's said, she's kind of come home and, again, in tears, broken up, because she just spent basically 2-3 hours in an operation to essentially take out a child that she knows is basically dead, and has to kind of kill it, abort it, very late stage abortion, and then had to consult and talk with the mother, and she's like, it's just this emotionally awful, draining fucking thing. She doesn't like this. She doesn't want to do this, but the fetus isn't viable. The child is not really viable. The chances of survival are minuscule. They still will try, but they know that the process to remove or do this basically guarantees death for the child. But the woman is going to die. She's going to die before the child can actually be taken out. And even if we keeping her barely alive somehow and she dies and then we do this, like, the child still dies because she can't deliver it. She can't get it out without the fucking thing dying. And she's broken about this because it sucks, because oftentimes she's consulting with these people and monitoring them for months. So, she has many patients. She's often monitoring them for months. Month or 2 months, especially when they start getting into, like, danger zone area. She's often referred to and they're sent to her, and she's like, all right. So she's with them, consulting them, oftentimes meeting them multiple times, working with them multiple times over several months. And then all that work, all that effort ends in this horrible, sad moment. And now he's going to describe it like she's some kind of butcher. Not a butcher. She's just desperately trying to keep everyone alive. And then, sadly, she has to make the goddamn hard choice, and the mother has to make the really hard choice. Look, you can try, but it'll kill you. Will the baby survive? Almost certainly not. Even if you try your hardest, even if you throw your life away trying to keep this child alive, I can't deliver it. Like, it's like 1 in 1,000 chance to get this baby out alive of you. Will be dead no matter what, though. And the chances of the child surviving your sacrifice will be, 1 in 1,000. It'll be so minuscule. And even if it does survive, the quality of life that it will have, it'll suffer so much trauma during the process of trying to get it out of you, trying to push it as far as we can to keep it going as long as we can until it's finally as close to being as viable as possible, and then getting out. The quality of life it'll have will probably be, the chances of it surviving more than a couple of days is smaller. So this is why I take a little bit of personal offense on this one, because I have some personal connection to it. Again, my sister-in-law is a very sweet, wonderful person. Generally, much nicer than me. Oh my God, she is so much nicer, more caring, and nicer and decent. And she has a really hard fucking job. And it's made all the harder and all the more awful and worse because of absolute dickbag pieces of shit like Charlie Kirk. May he fucking rot in hell. He doesn't deserve to have his children. He doesn't deserve the things he has in life. Because he makes damn sure other people and their lives are worse off. Based purely on his own selfish bullshit, anger, and hatred. Fuck Charlie Kirk.
Being born alive and then being dead on the operating table.
Okay.
That is who should go to jail.
Oh.
That was actually the best point somebody made.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck off. That was the best point. It's not a game, you little ass bag piece of shit. Fuck you, Charlie. God damn. I love how you try to be morally superior, whatever, and then you go back to smiling. Ha, that was a fun little game. Ha ha ha. This is what I hate about them. I couldn't do this because I'm not really that performative. I'm just not.
I know.
Okay, whenever I'm talking about this discussion, I always go to the question of what about in the case of the mother when her life is in danger? Because I'm a big believer. I don't know. I'm still iffy on if I think it's or if it's murder or not. But even so, I mean, I don't want to say murder is justified. Guys, wait. Let me just get this one point, and then you can vote me out. Give me 1 second. Say the mother gets pregnant, and she knows that if she gives birth, she's going to die. She has some kind of health complication. Then what do you do in that
Cesarean
case?
section.
I don't know what that means.
It's a C-section. They
Oh,
do
cesarean
an
section.
insert.
Guys, wait, hold on. Just give me one second.
They go right below the belly button, and they deliver the baby, and after she doesn't have to.
Yeah, everyone's voting because like this. Look, dude, I don't know if you know enough about this. This is kind of unfair. Everyone's kind of voting out too quickly. I feel like, again, put down. Give her 2 comments. Give her 2 comments. Oh, cesarean. What if it's still not viable? Like, again, you talk about, oh, we'll just do a cesarean. Again, I don't know a lot about this, but my sister-in-law does know a shitload about this. And quite frankly, that just doesn't sometimes it just doesn't work, and it's just not going to be viable. It's just not that easy. Again, he's always wanted to take, well, what if, it's at the risk of the woman's life? Well, do a cesarean. I'm supposed to do a cesarean on a 6-week-old fucking child? Why? Is it gonna survive outside a 6-week-old fetus? But do a cesarean on it? Why? Why the fuck would you do such an invasive thing for what? Nothing. It's not viable. You can't keep it 9 weeks, 10 weeks. It's just not gonna fucking work. It's not viable, Kirk. You're saying abortion across the board, so 2 weeks. What, I'm supposed to do a cesarean at 3 weeks? Because guess what? You can have it immediately gets pregnant, and all of a sudden you can start like, oh wow, this is having some serious health problems for this woman. Maybe we can try to keep her going for 9 months, but this is going to be extremely awful and lead to probably permanent damage, permanent harm for the rest of her life. And she's forced to go through with this because she got pregnant and like, oh well, like again, for whatever biological genetic issues, anything like that, like this baby, oh yeah, well, yeah, you're going to suffer severe lifelong problems from this, if it's allowed to continue. And it's 5 weeks. Charlie Kirk says, well, force her to do it. Force her under pain of penalty, force the doctors, force it all, ultimately. For 9 months, she's somehow supposed to survive this thing that is going to cause either kill her or cause her immense, terrible suffering that will be lifelong, potentially, and oftentimes it is, depending on the scenario. And then what? Like, okay, well, in those cases, just perform a cesarean. What? Again, a cesarean on a 5-week-old fetus? Why?
Give birth, it's technically birth, but it's much safer. So that's actually safer than an abortion procedure.
It's not safer than an abortion procedure. Again, if he is saying it's safer than abortion procedure, you're like this again. He's only ever he baits and switch across the board. He says abortion is murder and should be illegal from beginning to end. But then notice again, the only time he's talking about like, oh, abortion, or it would be safer than abortion procedure. That's probably only true when we're talking about like a fetus that's like several months. Like we're talking like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, like 5, 6, 7 months, like a fully grow, like really well, or not fully developed, but very well along this development line. We're talking easily into like 3rd trimester kind of shit. Yes. Once it hits that point, yeah, probably some degree of cesarean would be easier and safer than an abortion. But you notice how you forgot? You said from basic conception to the end point baby is born, abortion is murder. So what about the 93% of them that happen, before, before like 8 weeks or something like this, 9 weeks? Can't remember the exact statistics, but like, again, 90+% of all abortions happen around the 5, 6, 7, 8 week, 9 week kind of before 15 weeks, I believe. You're going to do a cesarean on a fucking 11-week-old fetus? Is that what you're saying, Kirk? Notice again. It says something. You gotta pay attention to a certain degree, because the more you pay attention, the dumber it is.
Sorry, Lily.
Yeah, people didn't like that because...
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Oh, that was very
Didi.
polite of her.
Nice to meet you.
I think technically she beat him to it, but give him that. That's nice.
I would say with abortion, I think it's very complicated, but I think the issue that I have primarily with your stance of being pro-life, that there's no nuance. There's women who are being forced to travel hundreds of miles to access abortion care, even in cases of rape in certain states that they're not giving any sort of allowance for that. And I think, a lot of people who are pro-life, they say that they're pro-life, but I feel like they're really pro-birth because with firearms, the United
It's weird how quick, I don't know, this is like a weird group, or maybe there's just really bad energy in here. I will say, again, the comments shouldn't be talking about how, like, when people are polite, they're voting them out. I'm not sure if that's true. I think there's just, because it's not about a politeness or whatever, like, it just, or even they're not aggressive enough. I could kind of see that, but it's just kind of weird. Like, they are voting very quickly. I'm not agreeing with the comments, though. The comments are trying to paint it in a picture of they're not being mean enough to Kirk, not confrontational enough, which I can almost agree to a certain extent with that, because you should be more confrontational if this is a debate. But the big thing is, they just are raising their flags really
States have
high.
some of the highest firearm deaths out of OECD nations, right? And we can acknowledge that that's for children who are actually living and breathing. So I feel like abortion, while yeah, it is, I can definitely see your point. I just think that it should be allowed in some circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm happy to get into the gun violence stuff later, but I want to really stay focused on abortion.
Right.
You can say you see my point. Can you see the world also where, since we know it's a human life, that it should be illegal, since we don't allow murder in our society?
So again, part of the reason why they're also raising flags is, again, this person's on the fence, like, I agree, blah blah blah. Can you then it's an easy layup for him to say, well, if it's murder, can we just see and understand why we'd want it all banned?
Well, that's where I have an issue, because abortion is not being done willy nilly. It's like the life of the mother is always.
How many abortions do you think we have every day in America? Just guess.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Guess.
I'm honestly not sure. Maybe, I don't know, 1,000.
4,000 a day. So
4,000.
it is kind of willy nilly. We have 1.6.
4,000 a day. One, I would want to fact check that. And two, it is kind of willy nilly. What are you calling this? And two, it is kind of willy nilly. There's close to 400 million people in America. So there's about 200 million, we'll say, women, 200 million men. We'll just cut that down to, let's just say, of those who are of sexual partners or of sexual activity, let's just cut it down to about 50 million each. So there's at most 50 million people who are somewhat having active sex throughout the year. And then you have, on top of that, let's just say sexual partners, you're probably having millions of sexual interactions every year. And then you're going to say, oh, there's 4,000. So again, because of, if everyone's having millions of, hundreds of thousands, millions of sexual encounters, again, you start stacking it up. People are getting abortions. Like, it's what, 4,000 a day? So times that by 365, we're going to be at what? Call it 1.4 million. Say, again, doing quick little math here. We'll just call it 1.5. So in a year, there's over 1 million abortions. I am doubtful of that. We'll call it 1.2 million abortions every single year. Again, I doubt that. I think people are taking the pill. I don't think there's actually going through the abortion procedures. I think they might be taking the pill, which again is abortion. It's one form of abortion. But again, when you consider how many people are having sex, how many sexual encounters are happening, how many pregnancies are happening, it's probably a not that significant portion of pregnancies ultimately result in abortion. I think the vast majority of them are not. So, oh, well, they're having so many abortions. It's actually not that much about it. Like, it just sounds, the number sounds scary, even if we take his number to be true, which I'm not sure if it's actually true. But even if we take his number to be true, it's just like this, yeah, big number, scary, but a big number when put in context of even vastly larger number, big number no longer scary. Because once you contextualize it in the vast number that he's ignoring, how many pregnancies are not? How many pregnancies are we having? How many children are being born? Like, again, who gives? And also, the number just doesn't matter. Again, people are getting voted out quickly just because, again, for the most part, they aren't actually attacking particularly well. Again, we get a lot of people, and this is probably why they changed the article title, because, again, their original thing is like woke, abortion students, pro-abortion students. But I'm sorry, we got most of these so far are pretty agnostic. Like, we got a Catholic in there. We got a couple of people who are really, of the people speaking, the majority, there hasn't been a lot, but the majority have been relatively soft on this. They've been at most like, I don't like abortion, but I could kind of see how it could be illegal if it, like, look, we need to kind of actually talk about a fucking point here. Somebody needs to be aggressive on this one.
Hello.
I just want to clarify, the thing that you're aiming for is less abortion, right? That would be what you would want, or at least no abortion.
Eventually, it's also a protection of those that can't protect themselves. But yes, and that's why once after the reversal of Roe versus Wade, we saw abortions go down dramatically in Texas, Alabama.
No, we didn't. So here's where Charlie Kirk is going to lie his ass off, and why we should be very careful with any statistic that he says. Abortions dropping does not mean that there are less abortions. What we're going to see is, especially in Texas and other things, is that they close abortion clinics. So yes, technically there might be less abortions in those areas. That doesn't mean there was less abortions, period. That just means that people didn't go get abortions in Texas. The next thing we could go is that, okay, well, there are less abortions in Texas. Well, if you close down the abortion clinics, which are the ones who are reporting and giving you these statistics that you use to then try to destroy them, Charlie Kirk, because that's how you know how many abortions are happening in fucking Texas, is because the abortion clinics are reporting them. Then if they're being closed down and or made illegal and whatever, and it's being difficult, that doesn't mean that those women weren't finding other means for abortions, either leaving or just finding other means. So that just means that you don't know how many are happening because you can't accurately report it. This actually ends up being the same problem with the conservatives when it comes to like the border crisis, as they call it, or anything like that, is they don't realize that where their number comes from is indicative of how there isn't actually a border crisis. And when also they go, oh, we shut down all these things and we did this because look at, we're not getting any more. We're seeing a massive drop in illegal immigration, stuff like this. No, what you're seeing is a massive drop in the reported aspects of it because you defund the things that report and monitor these. That's the issue. That oftentimes is one of the big little cons that they do. It's like, oh, we could say it's like, we could take a statistic like thievery. I actually remember one of our the colleges I went to kind of did a little bit of messing about to try to make their image look a little bit better when it came to how many petty thefts were happening in the like in the parking lots, whatever, people's cars getting broken into, because it was on the rise and people were very upset and pissed off about it. What the way they made it better and why they they reported such a drastic drop. All our security measures with the things that we've been doing, we've seen a drop of like 25, 30%, 40% of all like petty thefts and car break-ins. And the reason they did that is because they cut funding and they stopped the program being run by some students and just monitoring. They just stopped monitoring the problem. And they also took one of the parking garages that was technically under the purview of them, and then of the security, campus security, and they basically rerouted campus security so that they wouldn't be there. So they didn't keep the contract going, or they sold that security contract. I think they sold it because they did both at the same time, just one followed the other. I can't remember which one happened first, but I think they sold the contract to another security company, and then that security contractor is just monitoring it. And then the report came out. All they included was the data that the campus security looking at. So break-ins didn't stop happening or didn't drastically go down. They just stopped monitoring certain sectors. And then they fudged the data and made sure it was harder to get accurate reportable data. So then they just had to work with what they had, which was less data. And it showed, oh, well, this number is 50% less because not looking at it very hard, and they're not accurately accounting for it. So that's a big thing with any kind of data or statistic that Charlie Kirk or they kind of put forward. Be very aware. Their data and is bullshit 90% of the time.
Alabama, Mississippi, we saw thousands of babies that are now alive and well that are able to have amazing lives thanks to the reverse.
Are they? Are they allowed to have amazing lives? Are they going to have it? Or are they living in poverty and destitution? Or are these babies going to schools where you and your political side are now defunding school lunch programs so these kids are going hungry? You assume, oh, they're now having wonderful, happy, great, wonderful lives. But then you make sure to do, after they're born, you do everything you can to make sure that there's no support for them. Go fuck yourself, Kirk.
Roe versus Wade.
I don't think a lot of that is true.
Well, it is, but
it's not true, because when you make abortion illegal, it doesn't actually decrease the amount of abortions that happen.
That's a nice talking point. In Texas, the numbers show differently. The birth rate has gone up.
Yeah, legal goes down, but illegal abortions still happen. Abortions still happen outside of whatever data you're showing.
That's not true, but let's just say so.
That is true, you fucking asshole. That is what we have seen time and time again, you gigantic gaping asshole.
So, well, if you
40?
you want to, well, first of all, if you count the abortion pill, you're right, but that's a separate thing than a chemical abortion. And
I'm sorry. Well, hold on. Why aren't we including the abortion pill? Abortion is abortion. This is murder. It's murder. What are you talking about?
Surgical abortion, different things. And I'm not debating. I'm not debating you. I'm debating her. So if you want to do the flags and come back in, try and be faster next time. So let me ask you this.
Oh, getting pissed off. Getting pissed off because finally somebody has some statistics, and you're pissed off because you really actually don't like talking about things. Though it is irritating that, again, the crowd is talking. But again, this is part of the frustration, is that there's quite a few people in here who generally don't have a good argumentative structure for this. And again, Charlie Kirk keeps spouting his random bullshit. But yeah, I like that. That's fun. Again, he's angry, and again, getting angry. One, I agree with the Charlie Kirk to a second. You shouldn't be interrupting too much. But the big thing is how snappy he got. Again, you're going to be debating all these people eventually. Like, they're inserting there, like, you can maybe say, like, but technically I'm kind of debating her right now. So if you want, come up next time. If after she gets her point out, come up next time. We'll debate that. More for her sake than his. But again, notice again, he doesn't do this for her sake. He does it for his sake. Because he doesn't like somebody actually bringing facts and statistics that show he's bullshit.
So the question is, we should try to limit unjust suffering of human beings, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's my position, is that there's unjust suffering of anywhere between 1.4 to 1.6 million abortions.
What do you mean unjust suffering? Again, you haven't proven that this is unjustifiable. You just said that they're viable. You haven't given any argument towards the unjustified, but that's where they should probably take some degree of this argument.
A year of human beings that are being massacred in the womb.
Massacred in the womb. Again, I love this kind of talking point. But you don't give a shit about the millions that are dying from lack of proper medical health care because your political side and the Republicans have been going after Medicare for fucking decades. You don't give a shit about that. You don't give a shit of anything about that. What? Because they can defend themselves? That not against the government. Oh, I only care about the fetus because it's perfectly innocent and undefendable and it can't defend itself. Nah, horseshit.
And so that's not a woman's rights issue. That's not a men's rights issue. That's just a human rights issue.
Okay, the best way to decrease abortions happening is proper sex education. Limiting abortion and making abortion illegal does not actually decrease the amount of abortions that happen.
So what is your evidence of that?
History. This is the problem, is that he's going to say, what are the evidence? The problem is that they really should do their research, because it doesn't take a lot of research, because quite frankly, this is kind of one of those things where people don't do a good amount of research in this area because it's such a known value that they don't think about it anymore. Like the Earth being round. The flat earther asks, "What's your evidence for this?" Like, well, fuck me, man. I don't know. I've seen throughout my years of life, decades of life, dozens and dozens of different bits of information and observable facts and logical conclusions and mathematical aspects that all kind of coincide to building up this concept of, in my head, the Earth is round. Trying to summon it all at once is very difficult, but they should do this. Before they come in here, they know that Charlie Kirk is here. Charlie Kirk is going to talk about abortion because it's one of the only things he ever fucking talks about. One of his primary things. Do a quick little Google search if you need to kind of refamiliarize yourself with the basic factual aspects of this. Abortions have always been around. Abortions notably do go up or down depending upon the sex education. This is something that is even reported by the abortion clinics themselves and other things like oh shit, I just forgot the organization that frequently provides some degree of sex education abortion provider. There's always protests outside their building. I literally just forgot it. But like 90% of this organization's work isn't actually abortions. It's just sex education, STI and STD kind of prevention, just basic sexual health stuff. Planned Parenthood, I think it's Planned Parenthood. Even though, again, these types are always trying to shut it down because they provide abortions or provide access to abortions. For the most part, the vast majority of what they do, the vast majority of the money and their time and effort is spent just around just basic sexual health and sex education. And they report, you might say, oh, this is by a source, but so is Kirk. They're the ones who are reporting abortions, for the most part, along with doctors and hospitals and whatever. They help provide a lot of the data that Charlie Kirk then uses to try to shut them down. And their data shows time and time again that when there is increase in sex education in high schools, middle schools, and it's good sex education when sex is not demonized, when it's not when there are options and avenues outside of basically the standard conservative Christian, Judeo-Christian church avenues of sexuality and sex education, when those things are present, when you have good education, you do see less abortions. You just do. This has been kind of shown repeatedly, time and time again.
Is my evidence of that?
Because we have increased sex education in the last 30 years.
Our sex education is so bad in America.
Well, by bad, what do you mean by that? We have more access to birth control for young kids. We have more.
Not really. And more importantly, again, you keep saying that, but it's like you are fighting constantly against that. And again, you fight against the sex education, fight against all of these things. We have
more kids that are learning to use birth control at a younger age. We have more of that.
We do really need somebody who has the statistics and will argue against this. The problem is that you're letting him ramble. You're letting him ramble, which again, he's fine to do. It's fine to actually let him do that because he's trying to bring up his topics or whatever. But again, you need to attack his points. Yeah, his points. You can't just let him just throw out his points and then just go, well, okay.
In our public school system, and we've seen all the trends actually go in a negative direction. So, in fact, we see that the more sex.
Again, interrupt him. He keeps making these things. He keeps making these statements that are factually incorrect. We're doing more sex education. We're getting more abortions. It's like, well, hold on a second. Part of that thing there that he's also doing is that he wants to define a difference between an abortion procedure and the pill. But is he doing that with that statistic there? I am fairly certain he's not, actually. I'm fairly certain that he's, in fact, bait and switching on this one and with his specific terms.
Education there is the more disturbing those trends are. So you say that, let me ask just one more thing. You say that if we make abortion illegal, people will still do it. Should we then
Why is he? Don't let him ask questions. He's the one who has to defend. You ask the questions, you make statements and ask, and he has to answer. This is part of the reason why this is falling apart and why people are also raising their flags, even though nobody else is really doing a particularly good job on this. He is the one who has the assertion, who has to defend it. Make him defend it.
just make gang violence legal because
No, I'm
people
saying
still
if you
do it?
actually wanted to decrease the amount of abortions that happen, you wouldn't be advocating for to make abortion illegal. You'd be advocating for all
does
of these
that
other
logic
things.
apply to stealing, looting, kidnapping, arson, and murder?
Well, actually, it does because those are results.
Well, again, notice the dishonest framing. Oh, well, should we make arson and all these other things illegal? Is sex illegal or sex inherently bad? Sex is not inherently bad. You can even say it might have some degree of good. The thing is that what they're encouraging is healthy sex habits, not necessarily abortion. And he's doing this bait and switch. He's suggesting that, well, if you shouldn't criminalize abortion, so what, we should decriminalize arson? That's going to stop arson? It's like this. No. What we're doing is decriminalizing abortion, making sure abortion is not illegal. And the efforts, that's again, she's talking about the efforts to sex education. Sex education is the equivalent in his example of like arson or stealing would be, hey, well, let's we shouldn't focus on increasing the penalties for arson and theft. And he's like, as well, we should make it illegal. No, it's just like, no, we should be focusing our efforts on dealing with what causes the arson and theft, addressing those social aspects. What causes abortions? Frequently unplanned, undesired, and unwanted pregnancies. You know how you prevent unwanted pregnancies, undesired, and dangerous pregnancies? By having proper good sexual education. This is how you would need to do this, because he's trying to bait and switch to make it sound like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're saying we shouldn't make abortion illegal because if we make it legal, it'll be less, or like we shouldn't punish this. It doesn't make any sense. Well, you apply this to other things that are illegal and that are bad, like arson or whatever. It's like, yeah, but again, arson is bad. Abortion, not so much. So you can't let him go with that one, because the whole abortion, murder, we should be arguing against that. But even beyond that, the point you seem to be trying to get to, which you are struggling to get to, is that regardless of whether abortion is good or bad, and even if we want to say it's bad, making it illegal doesn't reduce it. And two, the best way to reduce abortions is through sex education. So the fact that Charlie Kirk is inconsistent on this matter, if he's so against abortion, he should be pro anything that lowers and decreases either legal or illegal abortion. So we understand how he goes about preventing legal abortion by making it illegal. But how does he go about preventing illegal abortion? His whole statement right here doesn't do jack shit. Now, again, this is off topic from the initial argument, but it's where he wanted to go. So
Of different societal issues that you should be
got it.
educating
So we
yourself
should
on, rather than making it
so we
illegal
should
at
make-
the front.
Should we make kidnapping, arson, burglary, murder legal because they're symptoms of something else?
We should be helping society heal from
You
those
got to
things.
answer the question.
do we make them illegal? You got to answer the question. No, she doesn't fucking have to answer the question. You're the one having the goddamn point here. And again, this is one of those things where, one, we shouldn't have agreed with the terms. We should immediately attack the terms. And two, should we make them legal? Again, this is a side little thing here. You want to make abortion illegal? It's not a great argument from her, and she's kind of led herself into a trap.
We want less of those things. Should we just make them legal and we'll get less looting?
God, he has such a creepy
know,
smile.
Actually, I'm gonna let someone else.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because you walked yourself into a fucking hole. Would somebody,
Hi, Parker. Nice to meet you.
somebody,
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Charlie.
somebody just fucking actually attack him on this thing? Because sadly, we keep having, again, he's actually not as strong of a debater as you might think, because again, his points are stupid, but if you let yourself get walked into a weird corner, his stupid points might seem like they make sense because they're so decontextualized. Don't let yourself be walked into there.
Big TikTok guy here.
So, like, pedophiles, people
Fuck off, Kirk.
who were married to children in the past and normalized in that society, should they go to prison?
Should pedophiles?
Like,
go
if
to
you could go
prison?
back in time, would you put those pedophiles in prison that married those children because it was normalized? They were deceived into thinking it's okay. Would you put them in prison?
You got to slow down.
Sorry.
Pedophiles should get the death penalty.
No. So you'd go back in the past, you give them the death penalty, even though they were deceived into thinking it was okay. But you said people who get abortions who are women shouldn't go
Hold
to
on a
prison.
second, but it's not currently illegal.
Okay.
But
Regardless,
pedophilia
at that
is
time, it wasn't.
No, I would not go back and retroactively enforce laws where things were currently not illegal.
You wouldn't put pedophiles in prison in the past.
Hold on a second. When was it illegal? When was it legal in America?
Well, child marriage was legal in America throughout the early 1900s and especially throughout most of society for thousands of years, especially in the Old Testament and in the Bible. Right?
Well, hold on a second. So where is the Levitical law that allows you to marry a child?
I like how he likes to go into Leviticus, even though Levitical law is fucking nuts. But anyway, like, it doesn't follow any of it.
Oh, yeah.
Can you name the verse?
Well, I can't name the verse, but the particular conditions that are listed in the Bible are that you have to be physical maturity and emotional maturity, which is extremely vague and throughout society has been seen to be met at puberty.
There is not a verse, but let's kind of go
Okay,
back.
so when is
let's
the
go
age
back
of
to
consent
abortion.
under your view?
Let's go back to, well, generally agreed upon it's 18 years old. But let me ask you
But you, because you don't go based on what's generally agreed, you go based on the Bible.
I say 18 years old, but let me ask you a question.
Where's that in the Bible?
When does life begin?
Conception.
Like conception, great. So good. So should we protect all life at conception?
I care about sentient life, not
Sentient.
cellular
So
life.
when do brainwaves start?
Do you think brain dead people should be able to pull the plug on, like a family should be able to pull the plug on an individual
Hold
in
on,
the family that's brain
you
dead?
got to answer the question. When do brainwaves start?
You can see brainwaves around 6 to 8 weeks, which in brain dead individual there are brainwaves as well. So the brainwaves necessary to produce a subjective experience are met until around 18 through 26 weeks in the womb.
Can you see it from my perspective?
I don't give a shit about your perspective. You have to argue your perspective is the one that to be true. They don't need to see it from your fucking perspective because that's a subjective thing. And more importantly, it would go against your point because if we're going to judge morality or whatever, like, well, can you see it from my perspective? Great. Sure, yeah, I can. But can you see it from the pro-lifer? So I guess we're just going to have to live in a liberal environment that allows people with different perspectives to live different fucking lives. And thus we cannot dictate to a certain degree how they want to do this. Too fucking bad. I don't give a shit about your perspective, Kirk. Notice when somebody is more aggressive, Kirk stumbles. Kirk can't do this. Yeah, he's talking fast or whatever, but Kirk doesn't want to answer anything. Also, now he doesn't want to answer jack shit of jack shit.
That at 6 to 8 weeks, those brainwaves will actually increase, not decrease.
Who cares? Those brainwaves at 6 to 8 weeks are nothing. Nothing. Oh, they'll increase. Sure. So again, it's all about potentiality. So, okay, you want to argue about potentiality, then just put it at potentiality. But in that case, again, the idea that potentiality is your moral framework for why, the potential for life, the potential for consciousness, then again, you don't use this in almost any other facet of your existence. Then you can't put them in prison. In fact, you shouldn't even put anyone in prison, whether it's the women or anything else. You can't punish them because they still have the potentiality to do good. Why would I punish somebody and prevent them from doing good? Oh, they should get the death penalty. Why? They have the potentiality to do good. The pedophile, he wants to put the pedophile to death because that sounds really good to his tough, manly, conservative audience. But they still have the potential for life and the potential for good. Who cares if they did harm? Who cares? Whatever. The baby could be doing harm. The baby could exist, not exist. And again, it didn't have an existence, thus it had no value. But because it has brainwaves at 6 weeks and the potential for eventually a conscious existence, the potentiality completely and utterly overrides anything in the current context. You can't put me in prison when I steal a car at 18 years old. Why? Because I have the potential that when I'm 30 or 35, I might find the cause for cancer and find a cure for it. You can't do that because my infinite potentiality, by putting me in prison, you are thereby decreasing my potential in human existence. You can't do anything to affect my existence that might be negative, because that negativity could prevent the potential good. Thus, I get to steal whatever I want. Fuck off. You can't take potentiality as purely the deciding factor on good or whether or not something should be punished. It has to be a bit more than that. But again, he wants to do these things. But again, if you start concerning things other than potentiality, you open yourself up for, okay, it doesn't matter that it's viable and or potential existence. Is it existence?
Have allowed the process of development to continue.
Did you know those same EEG scans exist in brain dead people that you don't think are sentient?
No, but the difference with the brain dead people is that the likelihood of those brain waves actually increasing is very low.
So, potentiality. Oh, it's very low. So now all of a sudden we're making kind of a weird utilitarian kind of argument. So maximize good, minimize harm, and we look at the potentiality of it, and we go for the choice that is the least harmful and or resource heavy and dependent.
6 to 8 weeks, when by 15 weeks they can hear the
It's
mom's
impossible.
voice.
It's irreversible sensation. That's what brain death is.
Hold on,
didn't know that.
But no,
it's not coma.
But you're doing a red herring. Go back to
no, it's not. What's a red herring?
A red herring is where you avoid the topic and you say something that is adjacent or symmetrical to what I'm saying, but not actually I'm saying.
You mean a reductio ad absurdum? That's not a red herring.
A 6 to 8 week baby, if they're allowed to continue to develop, what ends up happening?
At a certain point, it will become a sentient being in the future. The same way that if I keep engaging in sex with my girlfriend, there'll be a baby in the future. Yet I don't care about the
unless
sperm.
you're infertile, which we don't know. But
Oh,
so
I'm not.
let's see the process of development, right? Why
Do you want to answer my question yet?
Why do you have the ability or the right?
Should those child P3Os go to prison?
The process of
Should the pedophiles go to prison?
From 1904. How many pedophiles are alive from 1904?
They're not alive, right? I meant like if you can go back in the past, hypothetically speaking, and you could put them in prison. Would you put them in prison?
I would have killed them myself if I was alive. Back
okay, so then you don't apply it based upon what people are deceived to believe. You apply it based upon what you consider to be moral.
It's
so the women who had abortions, you think they should go to prison. So why should women who get abortions go to prison, but someone like my mom who told me that Santa Claus exists shouldn't go to prison because they're both sent?
This is not going to be a constructive debate if you keep on talking over me.
Well, I was finishing my.
Yeah, technically you are actually answering any of these questions, and you want to avoid dealing with this. More importantly, again, you are at most an equal in this situation, which means that they can do this. And the big thing is that as the one who has put forward the thesis, again, the sensitivity of these people who don't like having to answer and discuss and be forced to discuss aspects of their thesis is shocking to me. It is so anti-intellectual. The second, and it proves them that they are just pseudo-intellectuals, is because, again, the second they are actually under peer review, that's what's happening here. They are allowed, they take precedent. Their questions, their arguments take precedent over yours, because you then have to respond. If they have a problem with your thesis, they have the floor to express that problem, and then you can try to answer it as best possible. But if they want to move on, you don't. Yeah, it sucks, and this is a little bit of debate, but honestly, you're the one who has the thesis here. You should, for the most part, be the one defending it constantly. And you're whining about, oh, he's talking over it, so it's like that, but because you keep trying to move away and not answer and not deal with the consequences of your answer. He asked you a question, you answered it, and now he wants to ask a follow-up question or to go, well, hold on a second. According to your moral philosophy, your answer here would be in contrast with blah, 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 blah. But you are running away because you don't like this.
My mom who told me that Santa Claus shouldn't go to prison because they're both sent.
This is not going to be a constructive debate if you keep on talking over me.
Well, right? I was finishing my statement. You were talking over me. But go for it.
Let me ask you a very simple question. Do you think it would be a good thing if we had...
Again, who cares about your questions? This is a small little thing, but I understand you want to ask the question, do this, but the fact that you don't answer questions, Kirk, this is the problem. You don't get to ask questions when you don't answer them. Not really.
Less abortions in America?
It depends on the context. Like, are the abortions prior to sentience?
Yes,
because I think
all abortions.
No, it would not be necessarily
are
better
you against
unless it is
late-term
the case that the
abortion?
people didn't want the abortions and it would be negatively impactful to their health, medically speaking.
Are you against
'Cause I think
late-term
women
abortion?
after sentience? Yes.
Okay, so you believe in an 8-week abortion ban?
Yeah. No, I don't. Sorry, I believe in an abortion ban after 18 through 26 weeks.
Okay, that's
Sorry,
a
my
more
bad.
reasonable position. I have to give you credit for that.
It's similar to Trump's 15 weeks.
Yeah. So why do you think that most people don't share your view on that?
Most people actually do kind of share that view. Again, he's trying to appeal to like, well, the vast majority of people agree with him. Not at all. And again, always remember that they'll always say this, all of those good Christians, but then they'll have those quiet little abortions. That the hypocrisy amongst the Christian right when it comes to abortion is fucking insane. I know more than a few who absolutely have said that, oh, I'm against abortion or whatever. And I also know, like, they're old, not really friends of my mother, but they're that kind of old school Christian that technically my mother knows, but she doesn't talk to them anymore for the most part because they're all pieces of shit. Primarily because of this thing. They're hypocrites. They all talk about, oh, I'm against abortion, and of course nobody should ever do this. It's like, yeah, you got an abortion back in '83. We know, because you decided to take a trip to visit some friend in fucking Colorado just for like a couple of days. And it was really sudden and it was weird and everybody knew. Everyone was polite enough not to point it out, but everybody knew. You got pregnant in '83. You got an abortion in '83. People saw like medication and people saw this, like they knew, but they just weren't, they were polite enough not to point out. That's the big thing. He's trying to appeal to a majority, but one, the majority isn't with Charlie Kirk, and two, the parts that are with Charlie Kirk, a lot of them are hypocritical sons of bitches when it comes to this matter.
Well, people just don't really know what sentience is. There's not a lot of conversation about abortion, and these conversations are very difficult. Like they're conceptually hard to go through, and I understand why a lot of people don't understand
for sure.
their positions on it.
So
But I think people
you
have
are aware
and again, the majority of people agree with me. The majority of people are also kind of stupid on most topics. This is the great kind of thing that again, the two sides, speaking out both sides of their mouth, is that in one side they'll say, the majority of people agree with my side. And you ask them on a different kind of thing, and they'll say, oh yeah, like, again, imagine the most average person you could ever think of, and remember that 50% of the population is dumber than that person. You're like, oh my God, yeah, like they'll make those arguments like, well, okay, but then you can't just make, oh, the majority of people agree with me. Yeah, but majority of people aren't. Like, there's a large percentage of people that are just pretty goddamn ignorant on this topic. So why are you, again, this is a nonsensical argument.
You're cutting me off. I thought we weren't cutting people off.
I was actually complimenting.
Charlie Kirk is just a slimy fuck. I'm sorry, his smile and he's creepy and he's fucking weird.
So I just have one question. There's, like, in any case, you don't think there's any case where abortion should be legal?
There's a very, very rare couple cases.
Okay, so you do
where,
think that a
one
couple
second.
cases
Hold
it
on.
is legal?
If cesarean section is not going to save the mother's life, and the mother's life is actually at risk, which is debated amongst...
It's not debated. You aren't a doctor. You're a piece of shit.
Growing numbers of OBGYNs.
Okay.
That is...
No. Not true. It's simply not fucking true.
The only case where abortion should be allowed.
But why? It's still murder. You said abortion is murder and should be illegal. If you make it illegal because it is murder, then they can't do it. Abortion, by definition, then can't be murder and or illegal. Just like killing somebody is not murder and not illegal. They don't say killing somebody is illegal. The law says killing somebody outside of the self-defense claims or or killing somebody without provocation. They clarify this. Your statement is abortion is murder and should be illegal. I might be being a bit pedantic and a bit arguing on semantics, but fuck you, Kirk. This is your entire shtick.
But people say it is a growing consensus in the pro-life world that abortion is.
Who gives a shit? It's a growing consensus of the pro-life world. Of course it is. That's like saying it's a growing consensus among Christians that Christ is really important. Great. Among the pro-lifers, yeah, of course they are growing consent on this.
It's never medically necessary.
Okay. So if...
Again, there's a growing consensus among the pro-life people. So? It's duh. Again, it's like a growing consensus among Christians say that Christ is really important. Of course they say that. They're fucking Christians.
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was going to give birth and she would... No, wait. Oh, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens to...
That's awfully graphic. I'm sorry, you were literally talking about snapping babies' backs and injecting them while they cry in the womb. You guys remember that? You remember that? Of course, Charlie doesn't. Oh, she's angry. I'm sorry. You had moral, righteous fury just a few minutes ago, Kirk, when talking about the murder of these children and the snapping of their backs, how terrible they are. Oh, you're getting too emotional? Again, that's the immediate that's one of the lowest forms of kind of critique is, oh, you're getting emotional. I'm sorry, you're talking about very serious issues. You should expect some degree of emotionality. Yeah, we don't want it to get too extreme, and certainly, but I'm sorry, if you're arguing for this kind of position and you know that this could cause great deals of distress, accept some degree of emotionality. But again, Charlie Kirk likes to follow in that the same like hardcore logic. If you get emotional, you're obviously losing. Except when you get emotional for Jesus and arguing for the Christian values, then you can be as emotional as you want because you're righteous.
Many people.
The answer is yes. The baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So that's insane.
But let me tell you why. No, hold on. Let me ask you a question. There's 2 ultrasounds I have. One is a baby conceived in rape. One is a baby conceived by a loving couple. Which one is which?
Your daughter was probably hopefully conceived by a somewhat loving couple.
Conceived by rape? Tell me which one was conceived by rape.
You don't know.
Exactly, because it's all human rights
but
and it's all human beings.
But that doesn't matter. It's about your daughter who has to give birth to it and is going to be tortured by that for the rest of her life. That's going to take away every freedom she's ever going to have. That's going to ruin her life. She's going to grow up and she's going to be attached to another thing.
The point is how you were conceived is irrelevant. What human rights you get.
But
hold on 1 second. If a person can.
I almost would agree with Charlie Kirk, but here's my biggest thing is Charlie Kirk doesn't believe this. Charlie Kirk doesn't really believe this. And more importantly, this belief doesn't sound as righteous as you might think. But again, he's not necessarily wrong. And again, I don't like the child rape and the kind of work here, just because it's just going to end up in kind of a dead end. Again, you need to elaborate. Okay, but here's the thing. It is incredibly dangerous for a child, a very young child, to carry another child to term. So if your child has been raped and is now pregnant and is going to be conceiving as a child, and the doctors are telling you, your little pro-life doctors who are super anti-abortion, they're so smart, they'd say, oh, it's not viable. And they tell you, look, one or the other. Like, the complications we're seeing from this, it's one or the other. And it's like, yo, you will do a cesarean. It's fucking 8 weeks. Or even worse, it's like, okay, it's like 16 weeks. It's 17 weeks. It's 18 weeks. It might be semi-viable, but we're going to have to do that. Like, okay, do it. And if you do that and you take it out and then the child dies, I mean, technically you did damn near as close to an abortion as possible. The child still dies. Oh, well, I didn't intentionally do it. Let's go about this. Let's just say, again, your child is having a child. And early on, for whatever reasons, maybe it's a genetic thing, something like that, 6 weeks or whatever, your child is dying because they're pregnant and there's something going wrong. Now, they're telling you, based on what we're seeing, this child probably won't develop into a actual full-on viable fetus. But you don't know that for 100% certainty. So you have to keep it going, even though you know this is going to cause extreme pain, suffering, and potentially kill your own child. So you're going to keep the baby alive inside of the child and lose both. Is that what you're going to do, Kirk? Like, again, this is where you would want to, again, it's not great because it's not a great avenue of attack necessarily. But again, this is where you want to develop this.
See them walks down the side of the street. It's not like they don't get First Amendment rights or Second Amendment rights.
It's not about that person.
The worst thing to do to that the daughter is to then say, "Hey, we're gonna go murder the being inside of you."
They wouldn't even know. Like, listen.
They wouldn't know.
Listen.
But wouldn't it be a better story to say something evil happened and we do something good in the face of evil instead of saying we're gonna do evil and then murder the being because we're gonna pander.
Again, you should never have allowed him to do this murder.
To the evil? No.
Pandered to the evil. Again, pandering to the woke. He couldn't say woke there, but he wanted to say, he had to change it up to evil. And again, this argumentation, very emotional, not very productive.
What makes the West great is that we do good after evil.
I love this patriotism. What makes the West great is, and again, notice the weird racism right there. The weird, like, kind of like the West is, but the East doesn't. And the Middle East especially doesn't do this. What the fuck, what? This isn't true universally? Notice he sneaks that in there. It's kind of a weird comment for why he brings up the West. That's because Charlie Kirk is a racist. He's deeply racist and bigoted. But here's the funny thing. Again, you could attack this argument in multiple directions. Right now, again, sadly, she did become too kind of emotionally focused and charged on this one thing that she can't kind of elaborate this argument. Because it's not a great argument against his point, but again, he says one of the big things is like, well, I say, in most circumstances, it shouldn't be allowed. But it's like, yeah, but again, murder is murder. If this is a universal thing, it's a universal thing. You can't avoid it.
Not evil after evil.
It's not about the being in the cells.
No,
it's not about. No. I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking.
No,
I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking. No, I'm speaking.
Want to say one more time?
No, I'm speaking.
Got it.
Thank you. So it's not. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the person. No, I'm talking about.
Again, you talk about rude right there. Again, she says, I'm speaking. Let her speak. You had your chance to answer back and forth. This whole like, oh, she's getting look at her yell over. Like, the reason she's doing this is because he's being a cunt, and now he's smiling. God damn it, I wish somebody would physically assault him one of these days. Just really just break his fucking nose. I know that sounds kind of out of pocket, a little bit thing, but this genuinely is, for me, it shows a cruelty in him. A genuine, ugly cruelty is that he knows by being an asshole, he just triggered her and fucked with her, and he's smiling and laughing about it. Ha ha ha, I got you. He's a troll, and trolls should get their shit kicked in. Trolls should get their teeth knocked down right into their fucking gullet. Just knocked out. They should just be laid out at every fucking chance. As long as you want to keep being a troll, people should have the right and responsibility to knock you out. Just lay you the fuck out. Because this shit does not produce any good results. Good from evil, eh? Good from evil? What good did you produce other than just mockery?
The person who is dealing with the pregnancy. I am not talking about the cells. I don't care. No, listen. The fetus, the whatever. I don't care about that right now until it is formed. If there is a 5-year-old child who is pregnant and the baby is 2 weeks in utero,
can't get pregnant.
actually they have given birth. There is one recorded case of a 5-year-old girl who gave birth.
Is that common?
Yes, it's common. 5-year-olds get sometimes, and if they get pregnant, I think they should be able to have medical access to something that could save not only just their life, but like their livelihood.
How many, I'm curious.
I hope your daughter lives a very happy life and gets away from you.
Okay, so that is really nasty.
Oh, fuck off. That's really nasty. I'm sorry. You don't get to pretend like you're somehow a polite individual. Fuck off, Kirk. Fuck off. That's really nasty. Get fucked, Kirk. You are a nasty troll, and you always have been, and you delight in being a nasty troll. But then when people throw it back at you, get fucked.
And so her belief system, just so we're
Cut him off. Cut him off. No. Time's up. Time's up. Jubilee, cut him off. His time is up. He doesn't get to speak outside of the time.
Is that... The time's up. Yeah.
Yeah, the time's up. Don't talk. Nobody's there. You're there to debate. If there's no one there in that chair, you don't talk. Shut up.
No, I got it. It's fine. I mean, it's insanely nasty, and we'll talk again.
How dare you try to pretend like you aren't a douchebag?
My next claim is that college is a scam.
It's literally this. It's like the same talking points of fucking. Notice again, this is basically the same thing that Candace Owens. It's just the new talking point. They got their marching orders, and it's not really like a universal marching orders. It's just this is the trend. They noticed that this is trending amongst conservatives is a really strong rise in anti-intellectualism and anti-college, and college sucks and all this is expensive, stupid. So they just kind of like, well, what's a good? Oh, let's just say college scam. All right, yeah, we'll just start with that talking point now. There's no sincerity here. It's just bullshit. It's just pure bullshit. And he says it's just such a dumb statement. College is a scam. All of it? Every part of it. What do you mean by college is a scam? Are you talking about, and what do you mean by scam? Like, are you talking about all the sciences? Everything's a scam? Everything that is included in the process of college and going to college and being in college and teaching college level stuff? What is the scam here? And more importantly, what do you mean by scam? What, because it costs a lot? That doesn't mean it's a scam. And more importantly, why does it cost a lot? It has nothing. Again, it's just on its face, this is such a dumb thing. Yeah, oh, well, I'll elaborate my argument later on, but it's such a dumb, pithy little non-statement, non-arguable claim that you have to like somehow elaborate on it so much to try to make it into something that's not. That's a terrible claim.
Hello.
What's your name?
I'm Maddox. How are you doing?
I just would never shake Charlie Kirk's hand. He's one of the people. He has been one of the worst. One of the worst. Like, he's worse than Shapiro. He's worse than anybody on this circuit doing the conservative fucking bullshit. Charlie Kirk is genuinely, and he is a racist. He probably he hasn't shown it yet, but if he has something where he starts talking about races and other people, you're going to find out, oh, wow, yeah, Charlie Kirk is kind of a racist piece of shit.
Good.
So, college is a scam.
Well, let's define our terms. College being traditional four-year college.
Of course.
University, not community college or technical college.
Of course.
A scam, if we can agree on a definition, is where a majority of people who will go through the institution or business, they're not getting their money's worth, their time's worth, and they're being deceived.
That is not a scam. And they're being deceived as far as this. Again, they're not getting their money's worth, their time's worth. Again, that whole aspect, again, let's look at what a definition of a scam is. We had to. You can see aspects of value and worth in there. Designed to deceive someone out of their money and or property. So you can kind of see aspects of this, but again, the fact that he leads with they're not getting their money's worth rather than the deception. That's the key part of deception. Something is, we might call it a scam if it's not giving us what we want, but at the same time, that doesn't determine whether it's a scam or not. That what it could be is like if I go to a restaurant and I order a burrito and I get a steak, You might say, well, you got scammed out of your burrito. Well, if I went to Texas Roadhouse and they don't have a fucking burrito on the menu and I just ordered, I say, I want this. And I pointed at something and they're like, well, I wanted a burrito. You point at the New York strip. Yeah, but I wanted a burrito. I expected like a New York strip in a burrito. I'm not scammed. I'm stupid. So that's why you leave with deception rather than money's worth.
They sign up. So do we agree on those terms?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Well, what would further definitions, what do you think is the purpose of going to college?
The purpose of college should be a traditional liberal arts education, the pursuit of what is good, true, and beautiful.
Okay.
That's
good, true, and beautiful. I love these kind of things. Good, true, and beautiful. What? It all sounds nice, but at the same time, the pursuit of beautiful, these things aren't good descriptors. These are some weird self-help guru, again, Christian, educating yourself is the glory of God and glorifying in God, all this kind of stuff. And this is beautiful because it is touching with God's embrace or some shit like that. It's not. No. Like maybe truth, maybe, or some kind of understanding of the world and around you. But this whole, again, this rhetoric of this beautiful truth, blah, blah, blah.
Not what it is. It should be a traditional liberal arts education, the pursuit of what is good, true, and beautiful.
And again, the reason why he does that is that good and beautiful are incredibly subjective. So if you are pursuing something, and he doesn't think there is any beauty in intelligence or intellectual pursuit or anything like that. He thinks wants beauty to be a specific subjective aesthetic. So if people are studying and doing stuff like postmodernist art or whatever, and kind of more extremist art forms that are non-traditional, those are ugly, and thus that is not what's happening. They're not studying things that are beautiful because he doesn't see beauty in intellectual pursuit or value in certain aesthetics as just the value of that aesthetic inherently. He only sees them as the utility for his ideology. So things that are useful and aesthetics and ideals that are useful for his particular bias are beautiful. Things that are not beautiful.
Okay. That's not what it is. It should be the betterment of yourself and your soul, nurturing your character.
Betterment of your soul? Why? Why should it be? College was never about the betterment of your soul. Even back in maybe back in like the 1500s or something like that, but the liberal education, the very purpose of the liberal education, one of the things that they are trying to be liberal from or liberated from was dogmatic religion. So the whole idea of improving your soul only in a very almost non-theistic manner, or at the most a non-denomination specific manner. So again, going to college and enriching your soul in the aesthetic of Buddhism is just as valuable as is going to college and enriching your soul in the aesthetic of Christianity or any other form, if you wanted to think about it in religious terms. Charlie Kirk doesn't think that.
Becoming a better citizen, understanding the deeper things in life.
Again, college is not also about becoming a better citizen. It's a nice result, but it's not its purpose.
Life. At the very least, though, it should be preparing one for the job market. Do you think college?
And again, that last one, I'm not sure if I agree with, but whatever.
College does those things.
I think it does, but I would add on to your point that I think not only is it for the betterment of yourself, but it's for the betterment of society. We need historians. We need certain majors that may not make as much money. I think those are for the betterment of society. Would you agree that there's some majors that may not make money, but are still essential to society?
It depends. Do you think that getting a degree in gender studies is good for society?
Yes. And you prove somehow it's not? Again, do you think getting a degree in gender studies, that doesn't answer. That doesn't answer the fundamental thing. Because he was talking about value. It's like just because a degree doesn't get money doesn't necessarily mean it's not valuable. So do you believe that there's an intrinsic inherent good, beauty, and value in the pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment of any degree, regardless of whether it is marketable and or massively influential, because even the small influences can be good. You believe that there's just inherent value, of viability, or are you wanting to abort certain things because, like, again, I'm bringing this back to, like, yeah, his perspective is very abortive, if you will, very pro-abortion, in aborting certain fetuses that he does, and certain college fetuses that he does not perceive as good and or righteous or aligning with his particular value of life. So you can actually turn this against him pretty good right there. Because again, he didn't want to answer. Instead, he goes on this thing like, do you think that gender studies degrees are good? Yeah. I don't think you understand anything of what happened. I think you see a couple of extremists. I think you see a couple of random things taken out of context, and you've used those things to prejudice yourself against the entire field. Again, it's like the Planned Parenthood thing. Oh, they provide abortions. They also provide like 90% of their funding and services go to things that are not abortion. But you only wanted to pick the one part of it that you disliked, and now you're saying, it's all bad. Baby out with the bathwater. Very abortive of you.
I would agree, yeah. Why would studying gender not be good for society?
Well, learning that men can give birth is not exactly a good use of time, is it?
Is that what they're teaching?
That's just stupid. And again, notice how stupid this argument is. Well, studying that men can give birth. That's not what gender studies is studying or looking at. They're studying gender. That's an offshoot of maybe some of the aspects of this is, and again, it doesn't, again, you may not like it, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Because you said it's about a good liberal education, blah, 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 all these things. Again, this is such a meme.
Teaching in college right now?
A lot of colleges, yeah. According to the Center for Disease Control, they no longer say women can give birth. They say birthing persons.
Okay.
Do you think men can give birth?
Do I think men can give birth? I think that...
yes or no question?
I think that a person who is assigned male at birth, I don't think they can give birth.
Assigned male at birth? So people are not male at birth?
Well, no. They're not male at birth because there is no sign that pops out of the womb. The baby doesn't come out with some declaration of independence and suggestion that I am indeed male. No. They have biological reality, and then we say, and we observe that, and we say, you are male, based upon some kind of biological thing. Now, you might be applying to that, but again, if we never called them male, this goes back into even kind of a linguistic thing, is that if we never developed the word male, and we instead had woman and, or female and Bobby, so you're either born a Bobby or you're born female. Saying like, oh, well, people aren't born male. Like, well, no, they actually aren't. Because that word doesn't exist. They are born Bobby or assigned Bobby because of the observable biological traits that we have codified and decided that these things represent the aspect of Bobby. And again, that fucking god damn, that creepy smile when he thinks that he's got a good point and he's being memey. Jesus Christ, dude. I pity anyone who has to be around you.
I think that a person...
See, your evidence that college is a scam, my friend.
College is a scam?
You're lacking in a lot of wisdom.
Well, here, we can continue right now. So, gender studies, do you think that studying gender is not essential? Should we not deepen our understanding of gender?
Well, first of all, I don't think gender... We're going to get there later. I don't think gender exists. I think that there are two sexes, infinite personalities, and no genders. However, let's get back to the core contention.
Well, here, can I ask my question again real quick?
Well, I want to get back to my core contention. A scam. So the majority of kids that go to college, if they end up getting a job at all, they end up getting a job that does not require a college degree.
That has nothing to do with... And again, like, okay, so... But that's not... Again, you're not talking from a financial thing. Your first point was gender studies, not how many college students are getting jobs out of college, directly out of college, that are directly related to their degree paths. More importantly, you were talking about beauty, truth, and I forget what his third one was. it's something more subjective than that. But none of those things align to jobs. How many kids leaving a seminary school or some kind of religious education, how many of them are getting jobs that are directly related to their degrees? More importantly, does it really even matter? Nothing about truth, beauty, or whatever the third thing was, I can't remember. None of those things have any correlation or necessary function to economic success.
Do you think that certain jobs that may not associate with a direct major can incorporate skills that you learn from a major? I think I'm an econ major, and depending on what job I do in the future, I can still use the skills learned from that.
So tell me about Milton Friedman.
Tell me about Milton Friedman. He is an economist from...
How about Thomas Sowell?
Thomas Sowell.
Ludwig von Mises.
Well, I will say that I'm a first year.
How about
I like how he's only talking about a couple of memeable conservative or semi-conservative or the economists that conservatives like. Oh, you haven't read all of these books? I'm sorry. That just proves how ignorant you are, is that, I'm sorry, the world is very large and there's a lot of information out there. And more importantly, he knew those names. He's just, you're asking such a vague, like, tell me about him. Like, what do you want me to fucking tell him about? What should I first tell him about Thomas Sowell or fucking Milton Friedman? There's a lot to talk about. Again, this only works for people who've never been to college, who don't understand anything about it, and don't realize how little they know about fucking anything. There are thousands of citable, reputable, historical economists. Probably not thousands. There are thousands, but how many of them would be in the general curriculum or even specialized curriculum? I'm not sure, but we're probably going to get pretty goddamn high up in the hundreds. Some are conservative, some are not, some are libertarian, some are fucking liberal, some are communist, all manner of shit. Oh, you haven't read these specific books? Then you must not be an economist. You must not, you don't know these people. Again, he knows them somewhat. But again, depending on where you're at your education, it might be very general knowledge here because you haven't gotten specific. Because guess what? The difference, again, I've talked about it before. The distance between a high schooler and say like a graduate student, or what we would consider the professional wear the outside ring. Imagine the field of understanding about a specific topic, let's say literature. Let's say you graduate high school. High school, this table constitutes all of the information and knowledge that might be encountered in high school that would consider that is about literature. Bachelor's is right about out to this ring here. So there's a pretty big difference when you consider how much you learn in high school, and then you look at the square footage, how much area is in this circle versus this square. This area has many multiples, 10, 20, 30 times the square footage, the square meter area of this table. So much more information. So much more. And more importantly, can one person cover this much amount? Maybe. It's going to be difficult. It's very easily we can understand where, like, yeah, everybody kind of gets this, but it's really hard to cover as a person all of this. But okay, let's just say that represents the total maximum. But like a really good bachelor student who learns everything he can, he might learn a good amount of this, but it's hard to say because, once again, physically, he can cover up this entire table if he lays on it, right? But can he cover up the entirety of it? Maybe if he gets a little bit bigger and he spreads himself out and he spreads out his clothes, his shoes, he can cover up more, but it's difficult. But let's just say they can. That's bachelor's. Graduate level, and then when you actually get to kind of where the professionals, the people who write about it and who do about it, who kind of are leading the industry, the experts in the field, where's their boundaries? Their boundaries are a city block. Not just this fucking building. It's a goddamn city block. The distance between common knowledge and where the actual experts in the field actually are for a lot of stuff is so gargantuan. It's so hard. Like if Charlie Kirk wanted to, he could reach out from this table, touching this table, just as a layman, The layman is stretching themselves out. He could probably get close to touching various aspects. He can't touch all of it, I'll watch, but he can touch various aspects of the bachelor's area. And maybe even get to these walls with a little bit of walking or whatever. But to be able to understand and comprehend the entire city block, that's where they are so far away. And even then, they can't cover all that material. They're on a small, imagine this is a city block radius. Each one of these people is their own little expert. Now, if we scale this up, we realize a circle this large as a city block, this person right here would be a giant, right? They'd be like 30, 40, like hundreds of feet tall, and they'd be massive, right? But they don't take up nearly all of this. That's why you have dozens of different expertise and specialists who specialize in Shakespeare, Milton, fucking Chaucer over here. We got Joyce right there. We got fucking name it. Name it, and you got one person who's specializing in this. We got Herman Melville here. We got Virginia Woolf over here. We got Toni Morrison right there. Now, they all mastered this area, and they mastered a good amount of the bachelors. But then, as they further get out, there's just simply too much. Too much information. Again, Charlie Kirk and his followers and people who believe in this and who kind of smugly assert this kind of shit, they just don't understand. And the reason why all of this stuff looks so strange and alien is because you are just too fucking ignorant of anything that was happening in the field or any sciences or anything around there. You just don't know because you don't need to know. And that's fine. But you can't then just hammer these people and say, oh, they're stupid and ignorant because what? Because they're talking in a language you don't understand? That's because you don't understand it. It's not because it's nonsensical. It's because you don't understand it. Because you don't know. Damn it, I wanted to get through this in one day, in one sitting, but we are not anywhere close to getting through it.
I'd love to see you answer the gender studies question.
We will get there later. That's what psychedelics are for. Who's next?
Yeah, but you don't like drug dealers or drug takers. You don't give a shit about psychedelics. Fuck off, smug, smarmy bitch. I'm being much meaner to him than Candace Owens or anyone else because of all these talking heads, Charlie Kirk has always been, for me, one of the worst. Like, he's a guy who I genuinely, if somebody, like, beat the shit out of him, like in a debate, and it's all this horrible, oh, the violent left, I wouldn't be upset. I think he's earned an ass kicking or two. I think he's more than earned an ass kicking or two.
Well, I think it's difficult to think about just one major, thinking about just gender studies. Like, sure, like not everyone should be a gender studies major. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need everything. However, why does it matter if 10 people want to be a gender studies major and it matters to them? Like, not everyone can be a lawyer, not everyone can be a doctor. There needs to be some people, and you know what? Yeah, it sucks that some people do go to college and get a degree and then they end up not in a workforce for that. But I don't think that has to do with like college was a scam. It's more like maybe that just wasn't the path for them, or that life choice was just too hard to get for them. But some people are able to go to college and get a degree and use it, and that is super important because imagine if no doctors went to college, they're just like, I think I can do it.
Well, of course,
like,
doctors and lawyers need credentialing, right?
Don't let them walk away from that. They need credentials. All right. Who's giving them the credentials? More importantly, they don't just need credentials. Oftentimes, they need a broad understanding and general critical thinking skills that need to be developed even before the specific degree path, which is why you do the liberal education kind of thing. Even though, oh, I just want to go for math. Why can't I just study math? Because math doesn't make sense unless you have understandings of English literature or English, of language, of writing, of history. Ultimately, you will be stymied. And we've seen this. We know this. We know this, that just hard focusing on one topic ends up resulting in somebody who just actually can't really apply any of the knowledge or even develop the knowledge effectively because there's so much interdependency between various fields and various aspects.
But
so college.
Well, less than 5% of all people that go to college end up studying medicine or in legal. The vast majority go into soft social sciences, communication.
Soft social sciences, yeah, gotta denigrate them. Well, like history, religious studies, are those soft? Are those not useful? Those are included in those things that you denigrate. And again, all of that, like the rest of that sets up, again, political, social, cultural aspects. This sets up, again, gives you the experts. You yourself, did you go for a doctor degree? I'm pretty sure he has a degree. I think he has a degree. Like, this obviously improved and gave you skills that may not directly correlate to the degree. You don't have your job because you have a degree in being an asshole. But your college education, your education gave you the tools to be an effective asshole, Charlie.
Of the humanities. So you're in college or have been, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you forced to take classes that you think are a waste of time?
Yeah, I'm forced.
Okay,
You know what?
Hold on. So that they're taking your money and they're forcing you that they're a waste of time. That's kind of scammy, right?
Oh, I think that some classes.
Ooh, some. So you have to probably go in debt, right?
Waste your time? God damn, look at that fucking smile. He is the creepiest, smarmiest fucking existence. That waste your time. Again, I don't like this because, again, a lot of students are going to be there, and they're not teachers. They're not professors. They're not people who've actually been in the professional field who understand college. They're still in the process of it. They're too close to it in many ways to actually have a better understanding, a whole more holistic understanding. Those classes that are useless, there are no classes that are useless. Period. There are classes that you fail to utilize and that you refuse to utilize because of interest and because of immaturity, but there are no useless ass classes. There just aren't. There might be teachers who teach it in a specific way that is useless on like some kind of, but we're talking degree mills. We're not talking college. We're talking degree mills to where, you know, you don't have to turn anything in. You don't have to do anything. Don't have to read anything. They give you an A and they give you a degree because you paid money. That's a degree mill. That is a scam because it's giving you exactly what you want for this money. And it's worthless because obviously you didn't do any work. So that's a scam, but in a weird way. Like, again, he keeps doing this face. He should never, ever do this face ever again. You fucking creepy, psychotic clown motherfucker. All right. I might have to call the stream early. I just got a text that I'm going to need to address. Nothing serious, though. Just more, it's more like work. I'm helping some people with some writing stuff, and I'm going to need to help them out with this. So we're going to get started here. Stop it here at 25 minutes. We'll pick this up maybe next week. I don't know if we'll go on too far with this, but again, this took too long to do because I always do that because I'm an asshole. But we will return to this again probably next week because we don't do Fridays. I don't think I'll be able to do Friday, but we'll return 25 minutes. Charlie Kirk, I hate him with every fiber of my being, but I hope somebody actually challenges on this point because this one is the big talking point. It is the root of anti-intellectualism, is thinking college is a scam because, oh, you're forced to take classes that you don't care about that are useless. Again, like, it's just fundamentally like if you think that, you don't belong in college. You don't deserve college. You don't deserve your degree. You don't deserve the benefits of the intellectualism that produced the math that you want to study. Because here's the thing for all you Charlie Kirk, like STEM lord people who go like, oh, well, you know, most of college is a scam. All them liberal arts are terrible. But, you know, the sciences are good, kind of. Except when they say liberal stuff. I don't like them. But, you know, I agree with Charlie Kirk. It's a scam and all that kind of stuff. And I worship mathematics and I worship STEM and science and all that good stuff. All right. Take a look at any of the major field people in those, the major people in those fields. Whether it's Isaac Newton, that's a couple other good mathematicians like, Albert Einstein. Other people like, oh shit, I just literally, Euler. I think it's Euler, right? Is that how you say his name? Euler? Or Euler? No, it's Euler. Sorry, it's Euler. Whatever his first name is, I can't remember. Euler. Any of those things. Or is it Euler? Is it spelled like Euler, but it's actually pronounced Euler? Now I can't remember. I think it's spelt like Euler, Leonhard, Euler, but it's pronounced Euler. Big figure in math, also. You look at them. Was it just math that they did? Like, that's what they're famous for, but was it just math, or did they do a whole lot of other shit? Not just in the sciences. Were they also... What was their education? Did they just get educated just on math? Or did they get educated on other things? Can you 100% prove that the only thing that was useful to them was their math education and not the philosophy, not history, not other softer sciences or harder sciences? More importantly, they oftentimes were themselves very influential in other fields like politics, sociology, culture, whatnot, based upon their social sciences understanding, their humanity studies, and their non-humanity studies, their math and all that. More importantly, would be an absolute asinine statement to suggest that major advancements and suggestions and whatnot in mathematics, and maybe not necessarily always mathematics, but stuff like, again, harder sciences like biology, chemistry, all those things, have been influenced by a change in social, cultural, and even linguistic understanding of things. Because one of the big things that people have talked about is that if you don't have the word to describe a thing, to make a feeling understandable, to encapsulate it, if you don't have a word or words, if you don't have command of that language, it is oftentimes very hard to develop a more complicated understanding of that idea, because you don't have words to just set out the foundation and then build upon those things with references. But Charlie Kirk wants to sell you. He is selling a scam. Charlie Kirk is scamming you right now because he knows you want to buy into the idea that college is a scam. It's all too expensive. And he wants to prey on that sentiment, which there are some aspects of truth of the college being too expensive, aspects like that. But he knows that's there, and he wants to prey on that by trying to get you to buy a product that, one, isn't true and only looks true or feels true because he's playing on that specific sentiment. He is a scam artist. Again, look at that face. Do you trust that face? I don't. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. I know we kind of had a shorter stream on Thursday. Sometimes that just happens because I tend to do a lot of work on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. That's why I don't really stream on them, is that's when I kind of get a bulk of my work done outside of just YouTube and streaming. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out. We will pick this up next time on Monday, unless something else pops up that's more interesting. But until then, and as always, I hope you have a good one.